Good morning. The nation wakes up to another day of Labour chaos as the Prime Minister is set to meet the Health Secretary Wes Streeting for a showdown in just a matter of hours.
Streeting, do you want to be Prime Minister? Wes Streeting, are you measuring the curtains? Do you want the case to number 10, Mr. Streeting?
Well, Wes Streeting is reportedly ready to confront Sir Keir Starmer after 4 ministers resigned with no confidence in his leadership. All of that expected to unfold here in the heart of Westminster. And just to add fuel to the fire, the King's speech is just hours away.
But given what's going on in the Labour Party, who knows?
And the psychodrama doesn't end there, does it? There are reports the former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is ready to launch her own leadership bid. And even Energy Secretary Ed Miliband is throwing his hat in the ring. Anarchy in Downing Street has already sent the markets into a spin. What further damage could be done, and will working people pay the price once again?
A chilly one out there again today, a brisk wind and plenty of showers, some heavy downpours also. More showers to come tomorrow too. Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong.
And I'm Ellie Costello, live at Downing Street for a special edition of GB News Breakfast. 24 hours of madness, Alex. It's being described as the maddest 24 hours in the Labour Party's history. But the Prime Minister survived yesterday, and that was absolutely not guaranteed when we were talking this time yesterday. And what will today bring? Well, it could bring anything.
That's right, Ellie. Look,
Sorry,
we've got the Health
Alex,
Secretary ready to, of course, get yourself better there, Ellie. We've got the Health Secretary, of course, expected to be on his way to Downing Street for that showdown with Sir Keir Starmer. It is going to be box office today. Will Wes Streeting go? Will he create will he trigger the leadership contest as early as this morning before the King's speech, or is he going to do the honourable thing and wait until that constitutional moment where the King has reopened Parliament and set out Sir Keir Starmer's policy agenda for the next couple of years? Will he do it before then, or are we expecting to see it happen today? This is where anything could happen. Now, the Health Secretary is expected to tell the Prime Minister, how are you going to get us out of this mess? Let's go back over to Downing Street. Ellie Costello is standing by there outside the famous door of number 10. Ellie, you're going to be keeping an eye out for the Health Secretary with our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood, aren't you?
Yes, we will be, Alex. Wes Streeting will be passing right by us in just a few hours' time. He'll be heading behind that famous black door behind us for a showdown with the Prime Minister. Now, what exactly he's going to say to the Prime Minister, nobody can be sure. But reports are saying that he's going to be discussing the turbulence that the party is seeing. And he's going to ask the question, how are you going to get us out of this mess? I think the whole country would like to know the answer to that question, Alex. Well, let's bring in our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood. This showdown expected later on this morning. Tom, how's it going to go? What is Wes Streeting going to say to the Prime Minister?
That is the million-pound question. Ultimately, Wes Streeting reportedly attempted to see the Prime Minister yesterday, immediately after Cabinet. Cabinet was a more muted affair than many expected, with the Prime Minister opening proceedings saying that effectively no leadership talk should happen during that meeting, but people should go and see the Prime Minister individually if they have something to say. Curiously, however, after Cabinet, the Prime Minister reportedly prevented the Health Secretary from coming to see him, from exchanging his views with the Prime Minister, and that's where we lead ourselves to today. It's a curious day because, of course, this would ordinarily be a great occasion of state, people preparing for all the pomp and pageantry of the reopening of Parliament. 1,000 military personnel, dozens of horses, the King approaching to the grand entrance of Parliament in Victoria Tower, and yet amidst all of that there is this constitutional question: who is actually leading the government and who will for the remainder of this term in Parliament? And that is a question that no one can answer today with any certainty. We've seen within the Labour Party there are roughly 400 MPs. 411 were elected at the last election, but there have been a few by-elections and some defections since then. Around 100 have called publicly for the Prime Minister to go. Around 100 have called publicly for the Prime Minister to stay. And that leaves 200 Labour MPs who have not publicly made their position clear, signing up to one of these letters or issuing one of those statements. And that leaves a huge question mark over what might happen in the coming hours or the coming days.
Has the Prime Minister played a blinder, in a sense, Tom, that he's correct, isn't he, when he says there's a process by which we can start leadership election that has not been triggered? He's given himself time here, and he knows that most likely he is safe today because nobody wants to overshadow the King and the King's speech, which is taking place later on this morning.
Conventional wisdom is that the person most likely to want to trigger the formal process for a Labour leadership election, and just to remind everyone, that's one candidate plus 80 MPs. Formal nomination papers must go in, and they must be nominated by those MPs. Once those MPs have pledged to nominate one individual, they can't nominate anyone else. This is what locks in a contest. Keir Starmer, by the way, would automatically be a candidate in that contest. It would be a challenge to his leadership. In order for that to get going, it is perceived to be the most likely person to do so would be Wes Streeting, because he would be advantaged by a faster contest. It's seen that Angela Rayner would favour a longer contest. It's seen that obviously Andy Burnham would favour a longer contest, being not in Parliament. He would require a by-election to come in. We might discuss that in a moment. But ultimately, what happens now is people are wondering, will Wes Streeting trigger that process? And it is right to think about the constitutional pageantry today. The King being in Parliament, reportedly the palace phoned up Downing Street yesterday to question whether or not the King's speech should go ahead today. Well, clearly there's some worry around this being overshadowed, about the King being drawn into politics, something the palace is very, very keen that he is not drawn into. And therefore, what we're seeing today is likely a bit of a hiatus in what has been a torrid time for the government. 10 resignations from the Labour front bench, let's remember. And of course, we are now thinking maybe if Wes Streeting moves, it could be tomorrow rather than today.
Because it is a very small window of opportunity that Wes Streeting has before the left of the party get their act together. We are hearing that Andy Burnham, well, we saw him yesterday at London Euston Station, didn't we? We are hearing he had secret meetings in London last night with allies talking about where a seat could come up for a by-election. What do you know about that, Tom?
That's right. Andy Burnham cancelled a series of events in London yesterday, and yet he came down by train anyway. He was spotted by the Telegraph snapping him at Euston Station, and reportedly Andy Burnham had meetings with a series of Labour MPs favourable to his leadership ambitions. There have been reported 6 Labour MPs who were thought to be those that have been in discussions with Andy Burnham to give up their seat, and yet no one publicly has commented on this or committed to giving up their seat. It is understood, however, that Andy Burnham has found a seat that he would be, the incumbent holder of which would be willing to give up for Andy Burnham to come in. A fly in that ointment, however, is it's not up to Andy Burnham. It's up to a committee of the NEC of the Labour Party, the national executive of the Labour Party, controlled by allies of Keir Starmer, which of course blocked Andy Burnham from standing in a by-election last time in Gorton and Denton, and could do so again if they really didn't want Andy Burnham to return to Parliament.
OK, Tom, you're going to be with us all morning. Thank you very much for bringing that to us. Well, there you go, Alex. We're hearing here that Andy Burnham may have found a seat in which to stand in a by-election. Of course, that all comes down to whether or not he would get permission to stand, or would he be blocked again as he was in Gorton and Denton. I think it's clear to say, Alex, that anything could happen today.
It certainly could, Ellie. Thank you very much there. Joining us live back here in the studio is Duncan Barks, political commentator. Of course, we'll be going back live to Downing Street whenever there's any... We have hopefully get eyes on the Health Secretary at some point, Duncan. We don't know what time he's arriving there, but it has to be before the King's speech later on this morning. Duncan, it is very hard to say what's happening right now. There is not much clarity across the board. We've heard reports Andy Burnham was down here in London courting MPs yesterday. Perhaps he was courting one of them to find a seat or at least to shore up his potential leadership bid. We've got Wes Streeting clearly on manoeuvres. We're just waiting to know if he's going to pull the trigger. Of course, in the middle of all of that, you've got Angela Rayner as well. What's going on? And also Ed Miliband. Let's not forget Ed Miliband. So another roller coaster day for British politics, as you say. We don't know exactly what's going on. And if this was an alternative universe, Alex, you know, you should have a Prime Minister less than 2 years into his job, Sir Keir Starmer, you know, on the day of the King's speech, the opening of Parliament and you know, just sort of like going through all of the legislation he wants to get through, and he should be able to get through with a massive majority that he got in July 2024. That's in a parallel universe. Here we are today on a significant day where you have the King's speech, and the only thing that everyone is talking about is whether or not Keir Starmer is going to survive the next 48 hours. It is absolutely extraordinary. So let's just go through it one by one. We'll come on to Ed Miliband. Remind me to come on to Ed Miliband before I disappear, because I think there's some interesting stuff going on there. So all of the focus at the moment is on Wes Streeting. Front page of the Times, they talk about a showdown between Starmer and Streeting. That is because Wes Streeting is ideally placed to replace Keir Starmer, because he's in the cabinet, he's an elected MP, which Andy Burnham is not. He's got a problem, though, that the left of the party, in terms of the MPs and the membership, are not a fan of Wes Streeting. So there's no guarantee that if he were to trigger some kind of leadership contest, that he would necessarily win, because there are people who, to be blunt, don't like him, right? And also, as the timing of this, it would be absolutely outrageous for him this morning to trigger a leadership campaign ahead of the King's speech. That would just be an insult to our monarchy and our King. So you've got that going on. It'll be fascinating to find out if he does walk down Downing Street and waves to Ellie on the way in, or whether or not he finds a back doorway, maybe through the Cabinet Office, to go and see Keir Starmer, because, again, it's a distraction on a day when we have the King's speech. You've also got Angela Rayner, who we know has been on manoeuvres, but she is hamstrung at the moment, as we all know, because we talked about this on GB News, with this ongoing investigation by HMRC, because, you know, despite being Housing Secretary, she got terribly confused over stamp duty. So, consequently, until that investigation is done, she's not free to necessarily make a move. Who else have we got? Let's talk about Andy Burnham. This is a guy who is desperate to be leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister. Remember, in the past, he was part of 2 leadership bids. He lost out to Ed Miliband and he lost out to Jeremy Corbyn. So this guy is desperate to do it. Now, it's interesting we hear this word on the street that potentially there's a seat that a Labour MP, an incumbent, is going to stand down in and allow Andy Burnham to potentially stand. As you've rightly suggested, and Tom suggested, and Ellie, the problem is he needs to get NEC approval. Let's just work on the basis that he does get NEC approval, because Starmer is so weak now that he can't block Burnham standing again like he did last time in Gorton and Denton. There's no guarantee, if there's going to be a by-election, that Andy Burnham will get in as a Labour MP. If you look at what happened last Thursday on May the 7th, the local election results, particularly in Greater Manchester, there's no guarantee that despite his personal brand, the King of the North, he is going to storm into, you know, becoming an MP in that area. It's turquoise reform and it's green.
It is. That is the battle. So there's no guarantee that even if he does trigger a by-election because someone stands down, that necessarily he will become the Labour MP for that area. And let's just remember, whilst the psychodrama is going on, the person who picks up the tab for this is a British taxpayer, because if he does go, there's going to have to be a mayoral election and there's a by-election as well. And who pays the price for that? We all do, whilst Labour squabbles over who's going to be leader.
Yeah, it's certainly not looking good for old Andy Burnham. You'd also think Labour MPs would look at the makeup of Manchester now and go, has he really done such a great job? Unlike Wes Streeting, who's managed to hold his backyard with his local councils, he's won that area. Andy Burnham has lost Manchester, at least in the local elections. I know he's still the mayor, but it doesn't bode well. If he was doing such a great job, you might see people coming out and voting Labour in those areas. Let's get on to Ed Miliband, though.
Yeah, so I think this this is the bit of the wild card, and I think this is really interesting. If we see Streeting trigger something this afternoon, because I think if he's going to do it, he'll do it either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, let the King's speech just settle down a bit, let the dust settle, etc. If Streeting were to say, I think I'm going to run against Starmer, this is where I think you'll see Ed Miliband chuck his hat into the ring, because Ed Miliband represents the soft left side of the Labour Party against Streeting's right-of-centre part of the Labour Party. I heard a whisper yesterday that Ed Miliband's already spoken to some of his mates in the unions to find out whether or not there's money available to back him in the leadership contest, and the answer is yes. So he's getting his ducks in a row. So and listen, you know more than most people, predictions in politics is a mugs game, right?
Yes.
But if we were going to be mugs, if Streeting were to run this afternoon or tomorrow morning and make that announcement, I think we'll see Ed Miliband announce his attempt to become the next leader.
There were rumours that he has told Cabinet, his friends in Cabinet, that he would stand if Wes Streeting pulled the trigger. So clearly not a happy, united bunch that we're told that they are.
And can I just make the point? I've been around the block enough times. When Ed Miliband or his allies say he has no interest in doing the job, it's guaranteed that he is. He's running.
Isn't that just
He's running
with politics?
Yeah.
I don't want to be Prime Minister, so they all say.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about what might happen today in the King's speech. There's a legislative agenda to be put out today.
Yeah.
Could this save the Prime Minister? Could this be radical enough to save him?
Well, I suppose it could do. I mean, so we don't know the exact contents of the King's speech. I mean, there's speculation there'll be stuff in there regarding closer ties to the European Union, maybe something to do with digital ID. Remember, that wasn't in the Labour Party manifesto, but it looks like Labour are cracking ahead with that. And the nationalisation of British Steel, though, to be fair, that's not particularly new. I mean, for the last year, we've been funding British Steel and running it. I mean, as I said at the beginning of our chat, Alex, this should be a day where Starmer should be the focus of attention going, look, this is what I'm laying out for the good of the country, and it's being completely overshadowed by whether or not he's going to be in a job inside the next 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers stuff. And I have seen some foreword on what this speech might be. It does beg the question whether he's going to lose. Wes Streeting, indeed, is going to lose some of those MPs that might have backed him if they go today. You know what? This isn't the worst I've heard. Maybe this is the most radical. Maybe we forced the Prime Minister's hand enough that this King's speech is going to make it. Who knows, Duncan? We will find out throughout the course of today. Duncan, thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you again very shortly. Again, thank you for joining us here this morning on GB News Breakfast. Ellie Costello is live in Downing Street. I'm here in the studio. But before we get more information your way, let's get your weather with Alex Deakin.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of dry weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then the sun will pop out at times, but when the showers come along they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some. And with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the course by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, it could be a day that goes down in the history books. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is set for a showdown with the Prime Minister here at number 10 in just a matter of hours. I'm going to be speaking to the Deputy Editor of The Spectator, Freddie Gray, with all of his analysis. That's up next.
Yes, this is GB News Breakfast with a very special live broadcast from Downing Street with superstar Ellie Costello there this morning. Stay tuned for more.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Welcome back to this special edition of GB News Breakfast, live from Downing Street, where in just a matter of hours, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is coming to number 10 for a showdown with the Prime Minister. Let's speak now to Deputy Editor of The Spectator, Freddie Gray. Morning to you, Freddie. How do you think that conversation is going to go between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister? What is going to be said?
Well, I may be proven dramatically wrong in the next few hours, but I strongly suspect Wes Streeting is going to come out and agree to carry on supporting Keir Starmer for a little while longer. I think that there was an attempted coup of some sort yesterday, but it never really got off the ground. There was always this oddness that it was set against the backdrop that the next day, i.e. today, was the King's speech, and that was a terrible time to be doing this. And there was certainly a kind of backlash on the pro-Keir Starmer side that gathered momentum as the day went on. And I kept hearing people talk, Labour MPs talking about how they don't want psychodrama. And they said it so much it got quite boring. But what they gave us instead was a kind of drama without the psycho. And what it made me think is, where I thought that, you know, the Tory years were exhausting, the change of leaders, all the backstabbing and so on, and the public got fed up with it. But what we're getting here is something even worse. It's a kind of soap opera with a leader that isn't working, with these constant resets. I suspect we'll have more talk of resets today as the day goes on. But the machinery of government is broken. The leadership of government is broken. We have a lot of complaining. We have a lot of bickering to the press, briefing to the press against people. We have some leadership contenders that aren't really seeming to make a move. So we have this sort of paralyzed drama, which is, I mean, bring back psychodrama, I almost feel like saying.
So do you think that Wes Streeting, as you say, having failed in his coup, perhaps giving up his leadership ambitions, because it's a very short window of opportunity, isn't it, Freddie, before the left of the party gets its act together? We're hearing from Tom Harwood, our deputy political editor, that Andy Burnham, in those secret talks in London last night with allies, that he has found an MP in the north who is willing to stand down and for a by-election to be held. What do you think the chances are of Andy Burnham now getting permission from the NEC to stand in that by-election?
It seems to me he does probably have the momentum to get that, and he would probably get that unless the Starmerites can orchestrate a movement against him again. I think Burnham is increasingly becoming the kind of obvious choice for Labour if Keir Starmer goes. But the fact that he's not there means that the Labour Parliamentary Party will continue to eat itself alive without him, and he won't necessarily emerge as a kind of saviour figure. And you do have to take into account, I heard one of your guests earlier talking about this, the by-election. You know, he won't necessarily win a seat, and I think there'd be a lot of people who would quite enjoy seeing him not win that seat. So it's really dire straits for this government in so many ways. And then just think about the other candidates. You know, you've got Ed Miliband, who is increasingly emerging as this man who doesn't want it, but yes, he probably will step up and take it if he has to, if the ball comes loose from the scrum, as Boris Johnson used to say. But Ed Miliband's already picked up the ball that was loose at the scrum from his brother a while ago, and the public didn't like him, didn't warm to him. He was rejected by the British people, and he is not somebody that is thought to be doing a good job on energy, because our energy prices, as everyone knows, are sky high, and they are bankrupting this country in all sorts of ways. So that's one option. The other is Angela Rayner, who has all sorts of problems we needn't go into. And even Wes Streeting, the supposedly safe choice of, you know, the more centrist wing of the party, the more centre-right wing of the party, if you like. I mean, he's done an okay job as Health Secretary, but is he really a great, proven politician? I don't think so. Hearing again yesterday about the deep bench of talent that Labour has, but I don't see it. I don't see where all this talent is.
Can we talk about President Trump's comments overnight? He was speaking to Bev Turner, our GB News colleague, on the phone last night. He was saying, when asked about Sir Keir Starmer, that he's told Sir Keir Starmer to drill in the North Sea. He says he hasn't done enough on energy. He needs to get tough on immigration. He says he's told Sir Keir Starmer that if he loses this, it will be on energy. What do you make of those comments?
I think Trump, in his strange, often completely mad way, is very good at razor focus, focusing, zeroing in on the precise points that a politician needs to do to win an election. And he's identified in Britain immigration and energy. And I think those are two very, very key areas that Labour is failing on dramatically. I mean, you could say Labour has improved its act on immigration in recent years, but the country is still very angry about immigration and doesn't feel that it's being addressed in a sufficient way. And then on energy, yes, as I was just saying, we've got Ed Miliband in charge of a net zero policy, a net zero agenda that is not working even towards achieving net zero, and is not helping the public with their cost of living. It is causing the inflationary crisis that we are still in. And so, yes, in his way, Donald Trump is completely right. Those are two areas where the political class, be it Labour or Tory, have failed the public, and that is why Reform are rising in the polls, Reform are doing so well in local elections. Trump is right.
And Freddie, just finally, can we reflect on the incredible timing of all of this? We've got an embattled Prime Minister, we've got a cabinet in turmoil. This is all just hours before the King's speech, where he is set to play out the government's agenda for the next year. And we're hearing reports that Buckingham Palace was on the phone to Number 10 last night, essentially saying, is this still going ahead? They don't want the King to be seen to be propping up this government. They don't want to see him dragged into politics. This is a very embarrassing saga for the government.
Well, as you know, Ellie, I do a bit of stuff in America, and I'm always very interested when American news networks take an interest, particularly certain American news nets. They tend to be the more left-wing American news outlets. And when they're taking interest, it's really to just sort of marvel at how dysfunctional British politics, which has always seemed to be this island of stability, how incredibly dysfunctional we've become. And this is this drama, and I'm not going to call it a psychodrama because I don't think it's a psychodrama, sadly. The drama this week has just shown that we are a bit of a joke when it comes now politically on the international stage. We're seen as kind of hapless, unable to engage with problems, still grandstanding about our role in the world while not actually helping anything that much. It's embarrassing to say we've become a bit of a joke. I hope that we can turn it around at some stage. But the current drama is a very, very good example of how dysfunctional, how bad our political class is. And if you look at the resignation letters, they were so subliterate, most of them. I thought Jess Phillips's was particularly bad. Sort of sentimental, grandstanding, not even very logical. We deserve better from our political class, but we're not getting it.
OK, Deputy Editor of The Spectator, Freddie Gray, really good to get your analysis this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Now, if you are heading to work or school this morning, here is your traffic and travel update.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A92 is closed in both directions from Melville Lodges roundabout to Ladybank Junction due to emergency roadworks. On the A55, Britannia Bridge has a reduced speed limit of 30 miles per hour. In Derbyshire, congestion is easing on the A38 northbound with a lane closed between the A61 Derby Junction and the A610 due to a broken down vehicle. Normal traffic flow is expected shortly after 6:30 this morning. And on the trains, Greater Anglia buses are replacing services between Colchester and Clacton-on-Sea, and Thameslink reports disruption between St Albans City and Bedford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Now, do stay with us here on GB News Breakfast. The King will open Parliament later this morning as the government descends into chaos with over 90 MPs calling for Sir Keir Starmer to go. We're going to be live from the heart of Westminster all morning.
This is GB News Breakfast with me, Alex Armstrong.
And me, Ellie Costello, live from Downing Street on this historic day.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to this special edition of GB News Breakfast Live from Downing Street, where we are just hours away from what is being described as a showdown between the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, and the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. This is just hours before the King's speech, where he will set out the government's legislative agenda for the next year. You couldn't make it up. We have a cabinet in turmoil and an embattled Prime Minister just before this historic day in Westminster. I'm going to bring in our deputy political editor, Tom Harwood. Tom, can we just reflect what an extraordinary 24 hours it's been? We were talking to you yesterday morning, and it looked as though the Prime Minister wasn't going to survive the day. And here we are. He lives to fight on, and this showdown this morning with the Health Secretary.
It's important to say that some of this has been anticipated by the Prime Minister. When he decided to prorogue Parliament, when he did, some weeks ago, and set the date for the King's speech as today, many people at the time were thinking, why has he done that? Why has he decided that Parliament should not be sitting over the period of the local elections and indeed the immediate days afterwards? Well, I think we've all seen why the Prime Minister thought that Parliament should not be sitting in the last couple of days, because Parliament is always a sort of hive of scheming and skullduggery. The corridors of power are where plotting happens, and the Prime Minister thought he might be able to insulate himself by keeping members of Parliament away from Westminster, back in their constituencies, until the sort of immediate aftermath of the local elections died down. Now, to some extent, that has helped him. That has confused the situation and has made people who might have made a move in another situation wait and think about the dignity of the King, and perhaps that has delayed things and made it feel like momentum has stalled somewhat. But on the other hand, MPs being back in their constituencies over the last 5 days, MPs talking not to journalists here in Westminster, not being obsessed by this sort of political bubble mindset, but actually speaking to real people, out there in their constituencies, speaking to the councillors who lost their seats, 1,500 of them for the Labour Party, speaking to the MSPs who lost their seats, the Senedd members who lost their seats, talking to their constituents as well after having freshly knocked on thousands upon thousands of doors and heard what the public thinks about the Prime Minister. Perhaps this has been a double-edged sword for the Prime Minister. Yes, he's been able to stymie proceedings here by putting the King in the middle of them all. But by the other hand, he has also enabled many, many members of Parliament, 92 of them now, to have these days talking to people in their constituencies, and 92 of them have come to the conclusion that they should publicly call for the Prime Minister to go. More than a quarter of his parliamentary party. It is a dire position for the Prime Minister to be in.
Well, he is in a dire position. Let's have a look at that showdown that's happening later on this morning. Just talking to the deputy editor of The Spectator there, Freddie Gray, he's saying that he thinks that the coup has failed, that he thinks the way the showdown is going to end is Wes Streeting putting his support behind the Prime Minister. What do you make of that theory?
I think that is a view that secretly people in the Conservative Party and people in the Reform Party might be hoping happens, that the Prime Minister limps away from this wounded but not out. That, I think, would be what most opposition parties would want to see happen here. But I think there is one thing that is perhaps pushing against that theory, and that is that Wes Streeting wants to be Prime Minister. I think that's widely understood, and it is also widely understood that the later a move happens against the Prime Minister, and it does feel inevitable now that at some point in this Parliament a formal contest will be triggered against the Prime Minister. Well, if that happens at any point, it favours Wes Streeting more to happen this week than any other week. The later it goes on, the more time Andy Burnham has to get into Parliament, the more time Angela Rayner has to sort out her tax affairs, the more time any other candidate has to build up a campaign. If Wes Streeting wants this, this is the week.
OK, Tom Harwood, thank you very much. You're going to be with us throughout the programme. Well, do stay with us here on GB News Breakfast. Still to come, as Labour's crisis deepens, there are concerns that the King is being dragged into this government's mess.
Yes, we're just getting the thoughts of our panel, James Rampton and Chloe Dobbs, next here on the show. But first, let's get your forecast for our top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It remains fairly cloudy over southern Italy with a few showers here, quite cloudy too in Barcelona, but plenty of sunshine for Ibiza and southern Spain as well. One or two showers possibly feeding down on a cool northerly breeze to the Canaries, certainly showers likely in Madeira. Southern Spain, southern Portugal dry and sunny, northern Italy also seeing some sunshine, but there's that cloud with some outbreaks of rain. The odd shower over mainland Greece, but most of the Greek islands dry and sunny. Some showers may crop up in Santorini on Saturday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Colin, it's always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And of course, you're wearing your full Chelsea pensioner regalia. It's a resplendent sight. Colin Thackeray. 2/3 of young people don't even know what VE Day is. You know what it is. You lived through it. Tell the nation how important it is and your memories of that beautiful day.
Well, extremely important to remember and to continue to remember. It means obviously victory in Europe, And it was a great day because everybody was happy, and, you know, we all lived through 5 years of war, and it was a smashing time. And I'd rather hope that people will continue to do so.
Do you think the problem now, Colin, is we've got a younger generation who are taught badly, and they're taught often to be ashamed of British history? We talk about slavery, the evils of empire, yet we don't celebrate the genuine heroism of V-Day and people like yourself.
Yeah, it's a shame. You know, 2 years ago, we were in Korea. We went across for a revisit, and I hadn't seen the place for 70 years. And it was extraordinary. The place was, the school was built up, and the people were marvellous. And every child knows exactly when the war was there, what we were there for. And we were told, I was told by a 9-year-old, it never occurred to me, that look, if you didn't come, we would be living the same as North Korea. That's a shame, isn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Should we take a look at some of the newspaper front pages? In a very warm studio here, poor Ellie out there, freezing, doing an amazing job. Let's start with the Daily Mail. They are leading with the headline, paralysed by Labour chaos, as Keir Starmer prepares for a showdown with Wes Streeting this morning. We're hoping to bring you live pictures of the arrival of Wes Streeting in Downing Street with Ellie Costello there live, of course. The Telegraph also leads on that showdown with the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister just hours before the state's opening of Parliament at 11:30 a.m. The Eye, they speculate on that cabinet meeting yesterday, with reports ministers have been told to put up or shut up as Number 10 tells rebel MPs to get on with governing. The Metro finally takes a lighter tone with the pun, Number 10 Doubting Street. Very good. Joining us now to go through what's making the news is author James Rampton and political commentator Chloe Dobbs. Good morning, you two.
Hi.
Morning.
Right. Well, there's only one story on the front pages today, isn't there, Chloe? And that is, of course, this battle of Downing Street that is raging on. There is so much speculation about what's happening. But, of course, what we do know is that the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, will arrive in Downing Street today, and he's reportedly going to be asking the Prime Minister, how are you going to get us out of this mess? Do you think he's going to trigger a leadership contest, or is it too late?
I think that there is a good chance that he will. The question is, does he have the numbers, and why has he waited until now? He may have just waited until now because he doesn't want to be the first out of the blocks. There's been a lot of a waiting game going on, but he still has time because, of course, Angela Rayner's tax investigation with HMRC hasn't been concluded yet. I think she was hoping that that would be sorted out before the local elections, but it wasn't. And Andy Burnham, of course, is not in Parliament, so Wes Streeting potentially still has a little bit of time to get his ducks in a row before he makes a move. But I think it's becoming quite clear that the Prime Minister either needs to go this week or set out a timetable for when he is going to go, perhaps at party conference, to give Angela Rayner and Burnham a chance to come in. Else, it's just going to be absolute chaos. I mean, we've just looked at the front pages. Every single one is focused on this. Nothing else in the country is getting done, not to mention the markets in absolute chaos. Keir Starmer will often, you'll have heard him in Parliament referring to Liz Truss and the chaos that she caused in the markets and how we're all still paying the price for that. The borrowing costs are way higher than they were under Liz Truss. At the moment, the yield on the UK 30-year gilt is the highest since 1998.
Not good.
So there needs to be some kind of, even if he says I'm staying until September, just some kind of certainty for the sake of the markets.
Well, we're paying for it all, aren't we? That's what happens. It will come in borrowing costs and then inevitably in tax increases, which we know that the Chancellor hasn't ruled out. James, really interesting is reading a column by Dan Hodges this morning, who's had some very juicy gossip from behind the scenes. He gets his sources coming in. He was saying that it was the reports on Sunday evening of the cabinet saying to him he's got to go that sent him over the edge. And that's what has inevitably led to him to say, do you know what, if you're turning and stabbing me in the back, I'm not going to resign gracefully. What do you make of that?
I think there's something in that, because it seems like his message yesterday to the cabinet was quite a defiant, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. And I think some of the people have bottled it. I mean, that's what sources are saying about Wes Streeting. Reminds me, you're not old enough, you guys, but Michael Portillo once was talked about as a potential Tory leader. He apparently had loads of telephones installed in his home to phone potential supporters, and he missed the moment. And I wonder if Streeting has as well. I agree with what you said, Chloe. If he had the numbers, he would be much more confident about launching a campaign. And at the moment, there's no indication that he'd even beat Starmer in a runoff, because it seems like the MPs are split down the middle, and the markets are terrified of change, of instability. And if Starmer plays that card, it may well be that the Labour Party says it's better the devil you know and stick with Starmer. Also, the electorate, as we've seen with the Tories, punishes you if you constantly cycle through leaders, if there's a churn all the time. Voters, they may hate Starmer, but they hate instability even more. So I think those are the things that are playing in Starmer's favour at this minute.
Yes.
What happens in an hour? Who knows?
Well, that is the thing. Could Wes Streeting be sacked, frankly? Because this has, of course, been widely reported as his coup. However, we do know that the Prime Minister was reportedly, before the local elections, preparing a cabinet reshuffle. He's so weak now, Chloe, he can't reshuffle his cabinet. It does beg the question, even if he hangs on for another week, really is curtains for Keir Starmer in the long run.
Yes, I mean, speaking of reshuffles, we could end up with a situation kind of like we had with Boris Johnson, where we end up with a rolling reshuffle if the resignations start. I mean, we've had 4 ministers go already. We didn't have a huge run of them after Jess Phillips yesterday, but potentially, I think a lot of people are maybe waiting until after the King's speech and also seeing what Wes Streeting is doing. As you say, he could be sacked, so Wes Streeting might decide to resign before that happens. It'd be very interesting to hear, if we do, what is spoken about between these two this morning, especially given yesterday we heard that Starmer shunned Wes Streeting. Wes Streeting was hanging around after that cabinet meeting trying to speak to him, and Starmer refused to speak.
Shunned loads of them.
He's refused to speak to anybody. He's got his head in the sand.
Apparently, as soon as they the cabinet surrounded him at the end of that meeting, apparently he went into his private office and said he's not talking about it.
Yeah, refusing to listen and refusing to go. There was an article in the Times this morning titled, I think it was, getting rid of Starmer is like trying to get a fat Labrador to come off the sofa.
Well, yeah, it could indeed well be the case. And James, some thoughts from you, of course, on the other contenders. We heard yesterday that Andy Burnham was on a train. He's had a private meeting with MPs here in London, perhaps trying to find himself a seat, but it's going to be very hard for him.
It may be that train is leading to a dead end, boom, boom, because it does seem to me that he's making a lot of presumptions here. A, that he's going to find an MP willing to stand aside, and I think, importantly, B, that he'd actually win that by-election. You know, look what's happened to the Labour Party in the North West. Reform and the Greens, to some extent, have surged, and as happened in Gorton and Denton, those insurgent parties really gave a kicking to the two traditional parties. So Burnham is presuming that it will almost be like a coronation. The King of the North strolls into Parliament and becomes King of Parliament. I don't think it's that straightforward. Also, people will think that he is being too cocky. They'll say, oh, well, you know, he thinks he can stroll in and we'll all love him. But there's no evidence that that would actually be translated into votes. He's very good at PR, he's a very good communicator, but why would he be any better than Starmer?
Yeah, and very, very briefly, according to 1 Minute, this is again Dan Hodges' column, Shabana Mahmood's intervention wrecked everything. It was apparently her that has sent Starmer over the edge here. I'm just reading this as a little bit as we go here. The briefing last night denied the Prime Minister the opportunity to leave with dignity. Perhaps he was going to go and the Cabinet ruined it.
Well, I think that Shabana Mahmood did the right thing. I mean, it's kind of like when you had Jill Biden making Joe Biden carry, oh, you're doing great, darling, don't worry, when actually the right thing to do is give people tough love and say it's about time. Shabana Mahmood wasn't saying you need to go right now, right this second, off you go. She was saying set out a timetable, do it in a dignified way, which was the right advice to give.
Yeah, there you go. All right, look, still to come, a day that could go down in the history books. The Health Secretary is preparing to directly confront the Prime Minister in just a matter of hours.
This is a special edition of GB News Breakfast live from Downing Street. Do stay tuned. For now, though, here's your weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of drier weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then the sun will pop out at times, but when the showers come along they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some, and with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A92 is closed from Melville Lodge's roundabout to Ladybank Junction due to emergency roadworks causing significant delays. On the A55, Britannia Bridge has a 30 mph speed limit in both directions until further notice. In Derbyshire, a broken down vehicle has closed one lane northbound on the A38 between the A61 Derby and the A610, with normal conditions expected shortly after 7:15 this morning. And on the trains, buses replace services between Colchester, Clacton-on-Sea and Walton-on-the-Naze, with disruption on Thameslink between St Albans City and Bedford. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headline in like 30 seconds, as far as life.
Good morning. The nation wakes up to another day of Labour chaos, as in just a few hours the Prime Minister is going to be meeting the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, here for showdown talks.
Streeting, do you want to be Prime Minister? Wes Streeting, are you measuring the curtains? Do you want the case to number 10, Mr. Streeting?
Well, Wes Streeting is reportedly ready to confront the Prime Minister after 4 government ministers resigned with no confidence in his leadership. All of this is expected to unfold right here in the heart of Westminster, just hours before the King's speech.
And of course, the psychodrama doesn't end there. There are reports former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is ready to launch her own leadership bid, and even Energy Secretary Ed Miliband is throwing his hat in the ring. It is anarchy in Downing Street, and it's sent the markets into a spin. What further damage could be done today, and will working people pay the price once again?
A chilly one out there again today, a brisk wind and plenty of showers, some heavy downpours also. More showers to come tomorrow too. Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is a special edition of GB News Breakfast, live from Downing Street. And what an extraordinary 24 hours it's been, Alex. We were speaking yesterday. It looked as though the Prime Minister was not going to survive the day, and he did, against all odds, you might say. But do you remember that this is the government that said that these were the grown-ups back in charge, that there would be no more chaos, no more infighting? All of that seems to be a distant memory now, doesn't it? We've got an embattled Prime Minister. We have a cabinet in turmoil, and this is all just hours before the official state opening of Parliament. The King's speech is meant to be a day of royal pomp and pageantry, and instead here we are talking about this showdown at number 10 this morning between the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, and the Prime Minister. Now, what exactly is going to be said in that room, we don't quite know, but there are reports that the Health Secretary is going to be discussing the turbulence within the party, and will be asking the key question: how are you going to get us out of this mess? It's going to be a really awkward conversation behind that famous black door behind me, Alex.
Indeed it is, Ellie, and of course, while that's all going on, MPs inside the Labour Party are completely split down the middle. It seems 100 or so MPs seemingly signing this letter in support of the Prime Minister, some claiming that they didn't didn't even put their names on it and were there automatically somehow. Some, of course, on the opposite side, putting their name against that open letter for the PM to set out an orderly timetable. Well, Ellie, it's anything but orderly, isn't it, in Downing Street at the moment? How will the chaos unfold, I wonder?
It's absolute chaos, isn't it? We've got, as you say, about 100 MPs saying that he needs to go or set out a timetable for him to go at the very least. About another 100 putting their support behind the Prime Minister. Well, that leaves around 200 unaccounted for. Where do they stand? And when it comes to Wes Streeting, Freddie Gray, as you heard in the last hour, Alex, saying he thinks that the coup has failed. He thinks that Wes Streeting in these showdown talks in Downing Street today is actually going to put his weight behind the Prime Minister. If that is the case, is the Prime Minister going to accept that? Or could Wes Streeting be on the ropes? Could he be sacked? Could it go the other way? Could he go over the top? Could he now launch a leadership challenge to the Prime Minister? That's what we saw yesterday, didn't we? We saw that cabinet meeting. It looked as though it could potentially kick off within the cabinet. And instead, the Prime Minister made that essentially throwing down the gauntlet, saying, come on, if you think you can, take me on. Is that what we're going to see from the Health Secretary today? Well, let's speak now to our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood, who's here with me in Downing Street. How is this conversation going to go between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister this morning, Tom?
Well, that is the question that everyone in Westminster is thinking about this morning. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in the building behind me, because my goodness me, Wes Streeting is the man of the moment in terms of what everyone is wondering. Could he cause this formal process to start? The formal process that could dislodge Keir Starmer from Downing Street. I was here on this street yesterday when the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, ran up to us journalists. He was standing about there on the floor. And he was saying that, yes, of course, there have been many colleagues who have expressed discontent with the Prime Minister, but they haven't backed a single alternative. And the process within the Labour Party is unlike in the Conservative Party, where you can just express discontent and you don't have to pick a potential other Prime Minister. You can just dislodge the one that you don't like. In the Labour Party, you have to, if you want to start that process, back an alternative candidate. David Lammy almost challenged MPs standing here yesterday to back that candidate, to put up or to shut up, in the words of John Major back in the mid-1990s when he faced similar potential challenges. And what seems to be the case now is that we are all waiting to see what Wes Streeting does. Several allies of his, of course, were those who resigned yesterday. The junior minister in the health department, Jazz Afwell, resigned, as did Jess Phillips, seemed to be close to Wes Streeting as well. There have been a number of individuals who've seemed to be sort of in the Wes Streeting circle, who have been those who have caused some of the disruption over the last couple of days. Not exclusively those in the Wes Streeting circle, of course. Clearly, there have been those on the left of the party discontent with Keir Starmer, some non-factional MPs as well. It's a broad breadth of MPs in terms of those who have demanded that the Prime Minister goes. But ultimately, that formal process cannot get underway until a candidate says, I am challenging the Prime Minister. Then people know to attach their names to that candidate, and it all starts to go. Could that happen today? I think that this is a really difficult question, because the King is, of course, in Parliament. Buckingham Palace has already been in contact with Downing Street, worried about the King being dragged into politics, being embarrassed by this process. The King has to sit above politics in this country, and there is a concern that if anything were to move today, especially before the King has gone back to Buckingham Palace, has left the Palace of Westminster, if anything were to happen before then, that would be seen to be constitutionally improper. So it could be that if something happens, it actually happens tomorrow. Wes Streeting was already due to give a speech on Thursday to do with his role as Health Secretary. Speech. Could that be a moment when this could actually get underway? Or might we see at some point in the debate after the King's speech, and there's going to be a huge amount of debate in Parliament later on today. Could that also be a moment? There are lots of moments of jeopardy now for the Prime Minister, but ultimately what's going to happen behind closed doors this morning, we're not going to hear about as it happens.
We would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation, wouldn't we, Tom? It was a defiant message from the Prime Minister yesterday that not any of us were expecting. After that cabinet meeting, he essentially said to his cabinet, I have a job to do, I'll be getting on with that job, and there is an official process which hasn't been triggered. Is this courage from the Prime Minister, or is this cloth-eared?
It's the only thing he can do if he wants to stay in his position. Pretend that it's business as usual. And yet, it's plain to see that it's not business as usual. The Prime Minister is a deeply damaged man. It's clear that it's going to be almost impossible to govern when over, 92 MPs have said they have no confidence in the Prime Minister. That's more than it would take to wipe out the government's majority. In fact, looking at the numbers across the whole House, more than half the House has said in one way or another it doesn't have confidence in this Prime Minister. How is he going to be able to get his legislative agenda through the House when his own MPs have such little confidence in him? This is a really stark moment for the Prime Minister. Whether a move is made today, tomorrow, or in the coming weeks, it does feel like this is a damaged Prime Minister, someone who is not going to take his party into the next general election. It seems like it's a question of when, not if, a move is made against him.
OK, Tom Harwood, our Deputy Political Editor, thank you very much indeed. Well, Alex, as you're hearing there, the moment of jeopardy is not over for the Prime Minister. We have this showdown with the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, in the next couple of hours. The King's speech will be made at 11:30 this morning. That will last for about 10 minutes. There will then be a debate this afternoon in the House. Kemi Badenoch will be speaking. The Prime Minister will be addressing the House. Will he be addressing this turmoil? We can expect that he probably will. All of that, of course, be covered on GB News. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Ellie and Tom there. Joining us now in the studio is political commentator Duncan Barks. Yes, Duncan, as Ellie was saying there, looking ahead to the rest of the day, the showdown. I think the speech itself will be very interesting because, of course, the Prime Minister has promised a more radical government going forward, which, perhaps might suggest that some of those MPs that were a little bit sceptical after his fight for survival speech, which didn't quite go down the way he hoped it would on Monday, might turn around and say, do you know what, this is enough to keep me on.
Absolutely. This is another opportunity here, or rather it should be the latest opportunity that the Prime Minister has to kind of shore up the support of his backbenchers. So, we watch GB News later when the Prime Minister is in the chamber, when there's the debate off the back of the King's speech, going through all of the various bits of legislation that the Labour government would like to get through, and we can maybe touch on some of those areas in a second, but, one of them is renationalising, or rather nationalising British Steel. Look at the faces behind the Prime Minister. Have a look and see, if there are faces showing support, breaking out into a grin, people who are clearly behind him, or whether or not they're stony-faced. Keep an ear out for any applause that might happen, because that will give us a real indication of the mood of the backbench Labour MPs. I'll just make the observation. Do you remember when the Conservative MPs tried to get rid of Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson talked in his speech about when the herd moves, it moves? The problem with this herd of Labour MPs is not entirely sure which direction they want to go in. So what we're doing at the moment is looking for any signs, any symbols of the kind of mood of not just the political party, but Labour Party members. So you're right, there is an opportunity later when the debate takes place off the back of the King's speech, just to see how many MPs are really behind their leader.
This is the interesting and fascinating part, Duncan, is there's a vote, isn't there, on the King's speech in Parliament. Now, there are now over 100, at least over 80, I can't keep up, I think it's 90 or so, Labour MPs in open rebellion asking for an orderly transition for the Prime Minister to step down. It would be very unlikely, I know, that they would vote against the King's speech of their own party. However, it is a plausibility. It is a plausibility.
Yeah. It is a plausibility. I mean, I agree with you. It is highly unlikely, and it would put the Prime Minister... Well, that would be game over, wouldn't it?
Yes.
If the majority of Labour MPs voted against the contents of the King's speech, I mean, that Starmer's gone, right? He's lost complete authority. I don't think they will do that. I think, as we talked about earlier, the next 24 hours are crucial. We talked about Wes Streeting and this showdown this morning with Starmer. I think it's fair to say that I think Streeting would take the view that he shouldn't make any moves today because that would overshadow the King's speech. It'll be tomorrow if anything happens. But yeah, I think there's no question the King's speech will get voted through.
Yes. It does say something, though, when you've got 90 or so MPs, that's enough to lose his majority in the House of Commons. If MPs really did want to get rid of him, there's total plausible way now to support the opposition parties in a vote against him.
And it says a lot more that you and I are talking about this morning on the telly, because, you know, this should be a day of joy for our Prime Minister. Let's remember, July 2024, you know, he's one of the few Labour leaders that have put Labour into government, OK, with a massive majority, over 140 MPs.
And a loveless one, though.
A loveless one, but still, you know, the numbers are there. They speak for themselves. He should be in a position today where he's going, this is almost, you know, we're coming up to my second anniversary of being Prime Minister. This is a great day. We've got all of this legislation being laid out, and I'm going to get it through. I'm going to show change for Britain. I'm going to rewire the country in my own vision, if you like. And instead, it is massively overshadowed about you and I and Ellie and Tom talking about whether or not he's going to be in a gig in 48 hours' time. I mean, it's just utterly bizarre.
And the knives are being sharpened around the cabinet table. We've seen yesterday Ed Miliband ready to run. He says he'll only do it if his leadership election is triggered by Wes Streeting, no less. He also allegedly has said that he would rather Andy Burnham came back. But let's just talk about Andy Burnham for a second, because it seems to me that it is for the fairies that Burnham is going to be able to find a miraculous safe seat, which I don't think exists anymore for the Labour Party or any of the established parties, frankly, and then have the time to win a by-election, which can take time itself. A by-election doesn't happen overnight, and then be back in time ready for a leadership contest. It seems implausible at this point.
Yeah, I think the results of last week in the local elections and in Scotland and Wales show there are no safe seats anymore. I think that's a given. And, you know, up until that point, there was this view of Andy Burnham, look, he's the king of the north, he's got this great personal brand in the Greater Manchester area, and he has to a degree, but we saw Labour lose support in the northwest of England to the Greens and also to Reform. I also think there's an element of Andy Burnham believing his own hype and PR here. You know, let's remember, this is a guy who's had 2 previous attempts at becoming Labour leader. There's an element, in my view, of him, it looks like he's almost quite self-entitled. This idea, and I was reading social media last night, there's speculation there might be some MPs who are prepared to stand down. And it's, well, why should they? You know, people didn't vote for Andy Burnham.
It's really funny, because every time an MP is asked this on television, they very quickly go, no, I'm not stepping down. I'd like him to come back. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, so it is interesting. I mean, all eyes on Euston Station this afternoon as to whether or not he's hot-legged it back to Euston to go back up to Manchester.
But it's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, this is the Mayor of Manchester. What does it say to the voters that put him in office?
I actually think it's quite contemptuous, actually, to voters in that area, because it has this element, in my view, of this kind of like, right, well, I've been the Mayor of Greater Manchester, a bit bored of it now, really. I've got an opportunity to be leader, so I'm off, toodaloo, thanks for voting for me, but you served your purpose. And, you know, and then you look at maybe a Labour MP who's prepared to give up their seat, and it's just kind of like, well, those voters don't matter because they've decided to stand down, so Burnham can be a shoo-in. It's pretty unpleasant stuff.
It is indeed. Duncan, thank you so much for joining me this morning. We will, of course, keep you posted on all the latest that's happening in Downing Street. Ellie Costello there live. We will have eyes, hopefully, on Wes Streeting when he arrives. But now it's time for your weather with Alex Deacon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of dry weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then the sun will pop out at times, but when when the showers come along, they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff, gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere, the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some, and with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the course by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
OK, still to come, I'll be joined by political commentator Matthew Stadland to get his take on the situation in Downing Street.
And I'm standing by in Downing Street, where we're hoping to have eyes on the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, as he approaches number 10 for those showdown talks with the Prime Minister. But some reports this morning that he may head in through the back door. We'll have to wait and see here on GB News Breakfast for this momentous day in Westminster.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say...
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back here to Breakfast. Ellie Costello, of course, live in Downing Street. We will bring you the latest there. Hopefully we will have eyes on the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, as he enters number 10 for his showdown with the Prime Minister. We will keep you posted on that as soon as that happens. But in the meantime, I'm here with Matthew Stadlen here in the studio. Matthew, thanks for coming in today. I don't think you've slept. I've seen you everywhere the last 48 hours. Look, this showdown is the first thing we're expecting to be speaking about this morning, at least politically. Wes Streeting is going to meet the Prime Minister. Reports suggest Wes Streeting is going to ask the Prime Minister, how are you going to get us out of this mess? Will that decide, do you think, how Wes moves forward from there?
So, no one likes it when someone says, I told you so, but I told you so. Now, I wobbled for 24 hours, the drama on Monday spilling into Tuesday morning, because it really did look then as though Starmer was in the death throes. But I've been saying for months he's not going anywhere, partly because it is just so difficult to unseat a Labour Prime Minister. And so it's turned out, so far at least. This has been an unseemly spectacle. It's been an utter shambles. I mean, if you're talking about the reputation of the Labour Party, critics say they haven't done a very good job of governing. I would certainly say that Starmer has been an underwhelming Prime Minister. He's made mistakes. We've always known he's not been a particularly effective communicator. But now it can be levelled at the Labour Party. You can't even organise a coup. I've been astonished by the naivety of it. I mean, this is like, as it's been described in the Times, I think, a sort of slow motion death struggle.
Yeah.
And yet he might not die.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he probably will survive this, at least for now. And what does that do to the reputation of the Labour Party? What does it do to stability in the country? And I talk about naivety because it was so obvious to me how this would play out. If you had a leadership contest, and there was no way, I don't think, that Wes Streeting was ever going to be crowned, because there are too many people on the so-called soft left in the party who would just be infuriated by that. So you might then have Ed Miliband standing or whatever, if Wes Streeting did go over the top. Although Ed Miliband's team, I think, categorically deny it. But then you have civil war. I mean, there are already headlines talking about Labour civil war. That can't be good for the party. It can't be good for the country. It can't be good for gilt yields. Can't be good for stability. It can't be good for people's mortgages. But what else happens then? You immediately have, we've already had calls for a general election, but you immediately have Labour's political opponents saying, you don't have democratic legitimacy. Your new leader has been chosen by Labour Party members. We demand a general election. And then take it one step further. If the new Prime Minister were then to say no and effectively, in inverted commas, chicken out, as Gordon Brown is thought to have done in 2007 when George Osborne started talking about inheritance tax, well, then you're seen as a chicken. You're seen as scared of the electorate. And the narrative is set. So this process of rebellion has not only been a shambles, but has been deeply stupid, in my view.
And it's also very difficult for the Prime Minister now, because one way or another, the knives have been sharpened. The press has, of course, been leak after leak. We saw that supposedly secret meeting, private meeting with the Prime Minister on Sunday evening when he was surrounded by his political allies, David Lammy, Shabana Mahmood, and others, reportedly urging him to set out a timeline.
I'm not sure David Lammy was said to have said that.
But you're right. Perhaps there were conflicting reports as to who said what and who was urging what. But some were urging him to go. Some, indeed, were saying he should stay. And I think this is a difficulty now. A cabinet that is at least openly split in some respects, MPs that are openly split, and people like Andy Burnham travelling down, seemingly spotted on the train yesterday to London to meet MPs to try and shore up some support for himself to stand as leader. You've got 3 or 4 leadership contestants now. Can the Prime Minister survive even a few months at this point?
Well, listen, because of the way that these rebel Labour MPs have acted, there is almost not a perfect, well, certainly isn't a perfect answer or resolution to this, because, as you say, if Starmer does survive, and I think at this stage it looks likely that he will, well, then he is clearly weakened, and he's weakened and embarrassed in the eyes of the public. Unless he can turn this around and use his survival of this as a show of strength. People have consistently undermined the Prime Minister. You have to be quite tough to be the country's chief prosecutor. You have to be tough to be the leader of the opposition. You have to be tough to turn around a Boris Johnson 80-seat majority. You have to be tough to get rid of the Corbynites from your party. You have to be tough to be Prime Minister. And he has shown resilience, stubbornness, and at times, as we know, ruthlessness. People underestimated him.
And those 100 MPs that have put their or 90 MPs or so who have put their name on an open letter, for them, this is not a good situation either, because they want change. And so they have publicly announced that they are not happy with Keir Starmer, which would then, of course, put them right at the back of, or the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, in terms of where Starmer looks to form government.
What we now need is for Starmer to find whatever inner voice he has, to find or to better articulate a vision, to get on with governing and to show some leadership and to convert that stubbornness and resilience into something akin to inspiration, if that's possible. And then, if within 2 years he hasn't sorted it out, he hasn't turned it around, he hasn't shown people that they are better off in some way, at least as a consequence of a Labour government, then you have a leadership contest. Then whoever becomes Prime Minister says to the country, OK, we've had 4 or 5 years, I'm a new Prime Minister, now it's over to you. Do you back me or do you back Nigel Farage?
All right, Matthew Stadlen, thank you so much for giving us your view this morning on developing story, of course, as the Health Secretary looks set to arrive in Downing Street. We don't know what time he'll be there, but we suspect it will certainly be before the opening of Parliament by the King. And we'll be going live to Downing Street with Ellie Costello.
Hi, Alex. Just want to bring you this line that's being reported from The Guardian this morning, that 11 Labour-affiliated unions, that's including Unite, Unison and GMB, they're expected to issue a joint statement today saying that at some stage the party will have to put a plan in place to elect a new leader. So Keir Starmer, they say, will not lead his party into the next general election. Looks as though, based on that reporting, that Keir Starmer has lost the support of the unions. We'll have more on that on GB News Breakfast next.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M80 northbound between Junction 7 and Junction 8 is partially blocked due to a road traffic incident. On the A55 Britannia Bridge, both directions remain restricted to a 30 mph speed limit until further notice. Drivers heading southbound on the A43 between the A5 and the A413 near Silverstone face delays of around 10 minutes. In Hampshire, the A34 southbound between junctions with the A272 and the M3 is experiencing congestion with similar delays. And on the trains, Thameslink services are disrupted between St Albans City and Bedford, while Transport for Wales faces issues between Shrewsbury and Swansea. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to this special edition of GB News Breakfast live from Downing Street, where we are expecting to have eyes very shortly on the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, who is coming here for showdown talks with the Prime Minister. What exactly is going to be said between the pair? We don't know. We'd love to be a fly on the wall for that meeting. Is it going to be peace talks? Is a truce going to be called? Or are we going to see Wes Streeting, potentially today, potentially tomorrow, resign as Health Secretary and launch a leadership campaign? Anything could happen. I think that's fair to say. In the meantime, just want to bring you this line that's being reported from The Guardian this morning, that 11 Labour-affiliated unions, including Unite, GMB and Unison, are expected to issue a joint statement today. And in it, they're going to say that at some stage, the Labour Party will have to put a plan in place to elect a new leader, essentially saying that Sir Keir Starmer is not going to lead the Labour Party into the next general election. That reporting suggesting that the Prime Minister has lost the support of the unions. Let's bring in our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood. Tom, what's your response to that news this morning?
Yeah, it's not surprising, quite frankly. The Prime Minister does look like an incredibly damaged figure today. Even if he's managing to limp on through this week, perhaps the next week and the one after that, I don't think that there are many people in the House of Commons who think that Keir Starmer is genuinely going to take the Labour Party into the next general election. You can't really survive almost 100 of your own MPs saying the time is up, you've got to go, and find a way back from that. I mean, there's not been an example of that really in modern British political history. Once a Prime Minister has sort of lost the confidence of their party, or a significant chunk of it, it's very, very hard to win that back. But also it's worth noting that several unions, of course, have been very unhappy with Keir Starmer for quite some time. You've seen money withdrawn from some of the largest unions, and of course Keir Starmer has been rather abrasive with particularly the left of the Labour Party as he tried to make his party fit for winning that general election in 2024, dragging it closer to the centre ground, although many people would say since he got into power it's gone precisely the other direction again. But clearly Keir Starmer is someone who has enemies now on the left of the Labour Party, on the right of the Labour Party, and frankly those with no particular denomination within the Labour Party as well. That's one of the really interesting things about the 92 names of Labour MPs who have so far come out and said the Prime Minister must go, that they don't all come from one faction, that they're not all aligned to one particular candidate. This is a move across the Labour Party, not through factionalism, but frankly through electability.
Can we talk about these showdown talks between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister? We are waiting to see Wes Streeting. We're hoping he's going to choose to come through the front door of Downing Street, but you're saying you're hearing reports that he could potentially come through the back, so we'll have to wait and see. But whatever happens, we will bring it to you live here on GB News Breakfast. What's going to happen in that meeting between those two men today, Tom? We're hearing it could be peace talks, a truce could be called between the pair, or is Wes Streeting going to leave that meeting today, potentially let the King's speech happen, and then resign as Health Secretary and launch a leadership campaign?
That's the million-pound question. I don't think anyone can really know, least of all the two men on either side of that conversation until it happens, how it will unfold. I'm sure there are many around the Prime Minister who would like it to be peace talks, who would like it to be, we're going to sort of cease hostilities. How likely is that, though, given so many allies of allies of Wes Streeting have already put their heads above the parapet, have already sort of gone over the top and made that charge? charged resigned their government jobs. The PPS, the Parliamentary Private Secretary for Wes Streeting, he's resigned his job. The junior minister in the health department under Wes Streeting, he's resigned his job. There are many individuals around Wes Streeting who have gone over the top. So would it seem, frankly, churlish of the health secretary to then say, you know what, this isn't happening at all? I think the confounding factor here is that, of course, there's the King's speech today. No one wants to embarrass the King. It would be seen as constitutionally improper for there to be a massive furore or indeed an announcement of a resignation this morning. That is overwhelmingly unlikely. But what could happen this afternoon or indeed tomorrow morning? Those become the bigger moments of danger for the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister wants this conversation today, this morning, to be peace talks. Does Wes Streeting? I'm not so sure.
Because you were saying earlier, Tom, that really Wes Streeting, if he's going to move, he has to move this week. That window of opportunity is closing. We know that Andy Burnham was here in London yesterday. There were secret talks being held last night. And you said that you think that he's been offered a seat, as in an MP has been offered his seat, and a by-election could be triggered.
That is what I'm hearing. Andy Burnham was down in London yesterday. He was due to be in London to speak at several conferences, which he cancelled. He did not make any public appearances yesterday. Instead, he met with Labour MPs, particularly with some Labour MPs who it was thought may well offer their seats to Andy Burnham. But it's not as simple as that. You can't just gift a seat from an individual to another person. There's a little thing called the electorate in between, but also within the rules of the Labour Party, in a mid-term by-election, the way that a shortlist for candidates is organised is that is the purview of the National Executive Council of the Labour Party, the NEC, and there is a 9-member subcommittee on which the Prime Minister sits of the NEC that would determine whether or not Andy Burnham or anyone else could be a candidate in that particular seat, whichever one is offered to him. Now, what happened last time? By 8-1. That committee voted to block Andy Burnham. Could they do a complete about-face? Keir Starmer, by the way, was one of those 8 who voted to block Andy Burnham. I think the received wisdom here in Westminster is that if Andy Burnham were to get into Westminster, were to plonk down on those green benches, that would be the firing gun of a leadership race. That would become inevitable, that a challenge would be made against the Prime Minister.
But that could potentially still be a long way away, couldn't it, Tom? And as you're saying, victory would not be guaranteed. Deputy Editor, Political Editor Tom Harwood there for us. Thank you very much indeed. Now, do stay with us. Still to come, I'm going to be talking to Alex Burghardt. He's the Shadow Chancellor for the Duchy of Lancaster. That's next.
But first, I'll be speaking to the panel here in the studio about all the latest, including that report that Labour-backing unions are set to issue a statement against the Prime Minister. But before we get to that, here's the forecast for our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
It remains fairly cloudy over southern Italy with a few showers here, quite cloudy too in Barcelona, but plenty of sunshine for Ibiza and southern Spain as well. 1 or 2 showers possibly feeding down on a cool northerly breeze to the Canaries, certainly showers likely in Madeira. Southern Spain, southern Portugal dry and sunny, northern Italy also seeing some sunshine, but there's that cloud with some outbreaks of rain. The odd shower over mainland Greece, but most of the Greek islands dry and sunny. Some showers may crop up in Santorini on Saturday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel. the fairest place on earth. The famous words of William Wordsworth to describe his home of Grasmere in the Lake District, which has just been named by TripAdvisor as the UK's favourite holiday hotspots for this summer.
Grasmere is really, as you can see, a beautiful place. It's surrounded by fantastic fells or hills, by a lake. It's a very nice village to visit. It's got plenty of shops. It's got famous Grasmere gingerbread. It's got a beautiful 12th century church. It's just a really nice place to visit and unwind and relax and enjoy.
With Grasmere taking the top spot, fourth place went just a few miles down the road to tourist hotspot Bowness on Windermere, with other popular places in Cumbria such as Ambleside, Keswick and Derwent sure to see people flocking in this summer. However, for one nature festival taking place on the edge of the county this weekend, they recently had to put a warning out to some guests who may have been planning to arrive somewhat underdressed for the occasion. That's right, the age-old mix-up between nature and au naturel has forced the festival to ask any nudists to stay at home. But how many of us would be at risk of getting confused? Are you able to tell me the difference between a naturist and a naturalist?
No. No, sorry.
No.
A naturist is somebody who likes nature and the outdoors, and a naturalist is somebody who doesn't wear clothes.
That's actually the other way around.
You see?
Clearly the terms are easy to confuse, but fortunately any nudists who were planning on attending have been offered a full refund.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Should we take a look at some of the front pages coming into the newsroom? The Daily Mail. They are leading with the headline, paralysed by Labour chaos, as Sir Keir Starmer prepares for a showdown with Wes Streeting this morning. The Telegraph also leads on that showdown between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister, and that's just hours, of course, before the opening of Parliament by the King at 11:30 a.m. Meanwhile, the iPaper speculates on that cabinet meeting yesterday, with reports ministers have been told to put up or shut up, as Number 10 tells Rebel MPs to get on with governing. And finally, the Metro takes a lighter tone with the pun, Number 10 Downing Street. Very good. All right, joining us to talk about these front pages here is James Rampton and political commentator Chloe Dobbs. Good morning, both of you.
Hi.
James, to start with you, well, let's perhaps lead on this breaking story in the last hour or so that unions are set to have an open letter, 11 or so Labour-backed unions, to say that the Prime Minister will not lead the party into the next election. He needs to go.
I think that is very big news, actually, because, as we know, the unions are huge, major backers of the Labour Party, and if they're now suggesting that Starmer should prepare a timetable for his departure, then that's another thing that will push him towards the exit door. My only worry is that it will create further instability, and we've seen already that there's an estimation that 2 billion has been knocked off the markets by this speculation that's been going on about the leadership. And this continued instability is something that voters hate. You know, they may say that they hate Starmer, but they hate instability even more. Look how they punished the Tories after the endless psychodrama with May, Johnson, Truss, Sunak, and the 4 prime ministers within as many years. And there's a very funny cartoon in Matt. There's a sign outside Number 10, on the front of the Telegraph. Would PMs check out before 10 a.m. on the day of their departure? You know, it is this sense of endless instability, self-indulgence, navel-gazing. Voters don't like that. So if this union intervention is contributing to that sense of instability, Labour will be punished, and I think the country may well suffer as a result, because it will be perceived as something where Labour is just focusing on itself and not on the country.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the bond markets will not be good and the gilt yield is up, so it will increase borrowing. The Chancellor certainly won't be happy about it.
Well, I push back on that because with regards to the bond markets, I think that the trade unions here they're trying to bring stability as opposed to instability, because the markets will have a clearer picture of what is happening if Starmer confirms as soon as possible this week, I am going on this date, rather than leaving it just all up in the air when no one knows, is he staying, is he going, when is he going?
Well, it's fascinating because Dan Hodges' column, he claims that what sent Starmer over the edge, because there were reports he was going to resign, quite strong reports on Sunday that he was going to go, but apparently what sent Keir Starmer over the edge was seeing his cabinet, particularly Shabana Mahmood is this column, sticking the knife in his back, publicly leaking the details of that meeting, which has apparently sent him overboard and got the daggers out for his own cabinet. I'll just put this to you, Chloe, as well. In a leaked copy of this statement by the unions, they say Labour cannot continue on its current path and that the party leadership needs to focus on fundamental change of direction on economic policy and political strategy. They said working people needed rather than the personalities and unfolding political drama at Westminster. So for them, they say at some stage. They don't say now, but Ed Miliband is, of course, courting the unions.
So on Dan Hodges' column, what he is saying there is that Keir Starmer, he asked members of his cabinet for some advice, essentially, on Sunday night. And Shabana Mahmood said, I think you should set a timetable for when you're going to go. But that was meant to be a private conversation. That wasn't meant to cause chaos. That got leaked. And all of the press coverage that came out after that, people thought, oh, it's time to resign, it's time to go. And then you started to see various ministers starting to resign. But I think the idea that that is the thing, just Shabana Mahmood's intervention is the thing that is going to topple Starmer, I think is for the birds. He was clearly on the way out regardless. It was going to happen anyway. With regards to the union, I think why they are saying you need to set a date to go at some point rather than resign right now is because they don't want Wes Streeting. They're more the soft left. They want someone like Andy Burnham, for example, probably, and they want to buy themselves as much time as they can to get Andy Burnham back into Parliament so that he can be a contender.
I think you're absolutely right there. I guess the reality is that whatever happens, the Prime Minister seems to be, he's going to have to go at some point in time. He's got 100 Labour or so, something around that number, MPs saying publicly declared that they want the Prime Minister to go. That is a serious lack of confidence. That would, at some point, if there's a policy that Starmer wants to put through, which we believe welfare reform is back in the King's speech, might defeat the government, which could send them into a spiral.
That's true. I mean, it is certainly the case that Starmer has been a much worse Prime Minister than Labour supporters were hoping. But you've always got to think, would the alternative be better? If you dethrone somebody, will the new monarch be preferable? I think Burnham, Streeting, Rayner all have flaws, and they would all alienate certain sections of the electorate who will feel that they are victims of this Labour psychodrama and are not being taken seriously. That's my fear, is that a new person is not necessarily a better person.
Yeah, what do you think, Chloe? Do you think it's better now for the Prime Minister to go, or has the coup failed?
I don't think that the coup has failed. I think Wes Streeting has time, given that Angela Rayner doesn't have her tax affairs quite in order yet and Andy Burnham is in Parliament. I think there's still time, and I think there's still quite a lot of momentum. I think if he's going to launch a coup, it best be this week for sure. But in response to what James has just said, I completely agree that whoever comes next probably isn't going to be better. Starmer, I think, is pretty useless. But, I mean, for example, Andy Burnham, he said, we can't just live in hock to the markets. We've heard an ally of his has said, if Andy Burnham gets in the markets, they'll just have to step in line, as if that is going to happen. We've already got borrowing costs super high. It could wreak absolute havoc. Angela Rayner as well, I think, would just splash money wherever she wants with her socialist economics.
Is that not worse
that do not work.
Yes, is that not worse, changing leader? Because the markets like a bit of centrism, centrist politics, don't they? Because it's consistency. They don't like changes we saw with Liz Truss.
Yes, and I think that it was very telling when there was the market crash when Rachel Reeves was crying on the front benches. The reason why they were doing that is not because they wanted Rachel Reeves to go and thought, oh gosh, she's useless, she can't carry her emotional weight. They were thinking, oh gosh, she might go and we might end up with, imagine if Ed Miliband was Chancellor, all this money being splashed on net zero.
Prime Minister at this rate, Chloe.
But I do think at the moment that it feels as though anyone is better than Starmer in that, regardless of who else, how useless anyone else is, they might start getting something done with a fresh approach. Whereas at the moment, nothing is getting done. It is just not just this week, but it has been for some time now that Starmer is just trying to survive day by day at this moment, completely focused on his position rather than any of the issues in the country that people care about.
Yeah, James, I guess this is all very reminiscent of what happened with Boris, although the Tories are much more clinical and much more regicidal, and they have a much simpler way of removing a leader. They don't need 80 MPs or so to declare a candidate they like. They just have to declare that they want them out.
Yes, exactly. And this is the Labour process is certainly working in Starmer's favour, because Streeting, who's the only credible candidate given Rangers' unresolved tax affairs and the fact that Burnham isn't even in Parliament, Streeting doesn't have those numbers, or he might have moved already. So it does work in Starmer's favour. But yes, following what you said, Chloe, every time that Starmer said, well, I'm staying, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough, the markets have rallied. They do like stability. And I would fear that somebody new would create even more chaos. We're in an extremely unstable world at the moment. There are two major wars that show no signs of being resolved. There's a global financial crisis. Do we want to be self-indulgently gazing at our navels and saying, oh, well, we want this Labour leader or that Labour leader, when the world is in chaos?
What do you think, Chloe?
I think for the markets, Wes Streeting probably would be best. As you said, Alex, the markets, they tend to like centrist policies. They don't want socialist economics. And I think Streeting probably would be the best in that respect. Of course, it's someone new, and maybe that brings a bit of instability to start with. But I think that the current turmoil is causing so much instability that almost anybody would be better. And Streeting would probably be the markets' choice, I'd expect.
Indeed. Yeah, there's a lot to happen today. Of course, the King's Speech is the most important part of the day, but we are hoping to get eyes on Wes Streeting imminently, perhaps, and Downing Street. We'll keep you posted on that. Still to come. We're looking ahead at the King's Speech at 11:30 a.m. Don't miss an expert view on how the tumultuous time in Number 10 could impact the King's Speech and his state opening in Parliament.
And I'm going to be live in Downing Street. We are hoping to see the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, arrive here for showdown talks with the Prime Minister. I'll be talking to the Tories about that next.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today, and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of dry weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere, heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then, the sun will pop out at times, but when the showers come along, they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff, gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere, the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some. And with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the course by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Today, traffic disruptions are posing challenges for commuters. A major collision on the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent has forced the closure of 3 lanes, leading to significant delays for travellers. On the M80 northbound, drivers face an estimated 14-minute delay. The M1 southbound near Luton is experiencing issues too, as a vehicle breakdown has resulted in the closure of 2 lanes, though it is expected to clear by 9:15. Rail services are also affected, with both South Western Railway and Transport for Wales reporting interruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny for a chance to win. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The nation wakes up to another day of political chaos as the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is set for crisis talks with the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, in just a few hours' time.
Streeting, do you want to be Prime Minister? Wes Streeting, are you measuring the curtains? Do you want the keys to number 10, Mr. Streeting?
The Secretary of Health is reportedly going to confront the Prime Minister after 4 ministers resigned in protest of his leadership. All of that expected to unfold right here in the heart of Westminster. And to add fuel to the fire, the King's speech is just a mere few hours away.
And the Labour psychodrama doesn't end there. There's reports that former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is ready to launch her own leadership bid, and even Energy Secretary Ed Miliband is supposedly throwing his hat in the ring. Anarchy in Downing Street has already sent the markets into a spin. What further damage could be done, and are working people ultimately paying the price?
A chilly one out there again today, a brisk wind and plenty of showers. Some heavy downpours also. More showers to come tomorrow too. Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong.
And I'm Ellie Costello, live on Downing Street for a special edition of GB News Breakfast.
Got through yesterday.
Well, what an extraordinary 24 hours it has been in Westminster, and that drama is set to continue today, Alex, with showdown talks between the Health Secretary Wes Streeting and the embattled Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Now, some media outlets are putting it out as a showdown, others saying that this is an opportunity for peace talks. Certainly the Prime Minister is going to hope that it's going to go that way, that a truce is going to be called between the two men, and Wes Streeting is going to throw his support behind the Prime Minister because he would acknowledge that his coup has failed. What will happen, we don't yet know, but we are waiting here on Downing Street for the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, to arrive, and we will bring that to you here live on GB News Breakfast. In the meantime, shall we speak to the Tories? And Alex Burghardt, Shadow Chancellor for the Duchy of Lancaster, joins us now on GB News Breakfast. Very good morning to you, Mr. Burghardt. What have you made of the drama in Westminster in the past 48 hours or so? This must take you right back. You're well used to this drama.
I think it's just very depressing. I mean, I know you're sort of supposed to take delight in your opponent's misfortune, but I just don't think this is very good for the country. And you've already mentioned on GB News this morning the fact that the bond markets are taking fright at this. It means the cost of borrowing's going up, and that taxpayers across the country are going to be spending more on interest payments. This uncertainty is terrible, and terrible for Britain. And the Labour Party have got to sort it out. And I'm afraid that means they're going to have to get rid of the Prime Minister very quickly and replace him with someone else. The problem is, of course, that the alternative potential Prime Ministers don't appear to have a clue about what they will do either. They don't appear to have a clue about how they will fix the deep problems that the country faces. And that's why the Conservative Party today has published an alternative King's speech which show how we get down the cost of electricity for everyone, how we control our borders and decide who comes into the country, how we can keep local services for local people, how we can protect our veterans, and so on and so on and so on. And we published this because we don't care who. If the Labour Party want to use it, that's fine. It'll be for the good of the country. But I'm afraid I don't think they will. I think they're caught in their own civil war, and this is just going to run and run.
Well, let's stay on the theme of the King's speech, shall we, which we're expecting at 11:30 this morning. We're hearing reports that Buckingham Palace was in contact with Number 10 last night, essentially asking if the King's speech was going to go ahead. They were concerned that the King would be dragged into politics. Do the Tories fear that the King has been politicised?
No, and the King hasn't been politicised, but it's clearly very worrying for the palace, and potential for the King to be embarrassed, because the King's being brought here by the Prime Minister today to give a speech about what his agenda is going to be for the next year or two, but we don't even know if the Prime Minister is going to be here for the next day or two. And I really think they should have, the government should have thought twice about doing this, given the state that the Labour Party's in. So no, I feel very sorry for the King.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, John, because we all know
You're describing this episode that we're witnessing now as depressing, but is it the Tories that have created this culture of toxic psychodrama, of flipping PMs, that there appears to be no respect for these 5-year terms that we have in Westminster? Did you create this culture? Have you set this precedent where we can just get rid of Prime Ministers if we don't like them?
I haven't really yet backed it. Yes, there are more.
That's always been the way in Westminster. Prime Ministers can only stay for as long as their authority holds up. Yeah, and the case of Keir Starmer, his authority is clearly gone. You can't have somebody who's in office but not in power. And he's blown it. He won this big election 2 years ago, and everything that he's done has been a disaster, and it's been the job of the Conservative Party as His Majesty's official opposition to point out all of his disastrous policies, taxing farms, taxing schools, increasing welfare spending, and so on and so on and so on. And that's what Kemi Badenoch's been doing, and it's because of her work his incompetence has been exposed. She's been doing her job, he hasn't been doing his.
You say publicly that you want the Prime Minister to go, but privately, you surely want him to stay, don't you? By the polls, he's the most unpopular Prime Minister in history. He's deemed as weak. It's better for the Tories if he stays.
This isn't good for the country. He needs to go. There's this just general crisis of political leadership in this country at the moment. You've got the Prime Minister who is a busted flush. You've got Nigel Farage who's had £5 million put in his private bank account and is now hiding from the media. You've got Zach Polanski of the Greens, who turns out didn't pay his council tax and is living in some fancy mansion in London. And the only political leader who's talking any sense and getting anything done is Kemi Badenoch. And so I just, when I look at the state of, the government and some political parties, I do despair a bit.
Would you be threatened by Andy Burnham? We saw him, didn't we, in London Euston, a train down from Manchester yesterday. Reports that he was holding secret talks last night. And we're hearing this morning that he's found an MP who is willing to stand down, and that would trigger a by-election in which he can stand. Would you be threatened by Andy Burnham? He's a very popular man, isn't he? The King of the North.
I am in no way threatened by Mr. Burnham. Andy Burnham has failed to become leader of the Labour Party twice before. One occasion he lost to Jeremy Corbyn. He was, by all accounts, a terrible minister when he was in government under Gordon Brown. I don't think anybody should be. The only people who should be worried about Andy Burnham are people who are worried about what he does to the country. I have to say that the problem is that the Labour Party is clutching at straws. Do people really want Ed Miliband to be Prime Minister? Do they want Andy Burnham? Do they want Angela Rayner? Does anybody really believe these people have any solutions at all? I think deep down they know they don't. You need to have a leader who's got a plan, and that's why, if you look at Kemi Badenoch's alternative King's speech, it sets out how we can bring down the cost of energy, sort out welfare, and protect our veterans, amongst a lot of other things as well.
OK, Alex Burkhardt, Shadow Chancellor for the Duchy of Lancaster. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on GB News Breakfast. Well, listening across to that was our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood. Tom Harwood, what did you make of what Alex Burkhardt had to say there, saying that the Labour Party is clutching at straws, thinking that Andy Burnham may be a solution?
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? The Conservative Party find themselves in a peculiar position here. Of course, they were the people that started the Rolodex of Prime Ministers that have led us to this position where we could have our 7th Prime Minister in just as many years, if indeed a move is made formally against the Prime Minister later this week. And yet, what we are going to hear is later in the House of Commons, Kemi Badenoch standing up there, responding to what's known as the Loyal Address in Parliament, the formal proceedings that follow the King's speech in the House of Commons. Might she mention this sort of general state of chaos? I would be surprised if she wouldn't.
She's been very quiet so far, Tom.
She's put out a video on social media, but I think the strategy from the Conservative Party has been, when your enemies are making a mistake, let them get on with it. I mean, it is never a good idea to sort of try and interrupt your political opponents if they are fighting amongst themselves. So I suppose there is that. However, there is also a crucial point of distinction that needs to be made between today and yesterday. Yesterday felt incredibly febrile here in Downing Street. Today, I'm starting to get the impression that there might be some sort of political truce due to the King's speech, due to the state opening of Parliament. I'm recalling that on Thursday morning there are due to be new NHS figures released. Now, ordinarily you might expect the Health Secretary to do a bit of a media round upon that new release of figures, talking about waiting lists, talking about the health service and the job that is being done then. I just wonder if that might be the moment when Wes Streeting might have something to say about political leadership in this country. Could it be Thursday morning that is more likely for something to shift than today, the day when there is supposed to be this sort of grand apparatus of state in Parliament, the King, Black Rod, all of the pomp and ceremony that goes along with the state opening?
So you don't think that the coup has failed? You don't think that he's lost momentum? Because you're saying today that it would be constitutionally uncouth for him to make a move today. Is that his momentum gone? Is the wind out of his sails?
Well, two things can be true at once. There can be a stall in momentum, but that can be due to a reason other than the coup being off, so to speak. I think I didn't quite want to say the word coup there because it sounds a bit pejorative, doesn't it? But perhaps that is what is going on here. That the Prime Minister deliberately had a late state opening of Parliament. The state opening is very, very rarely this late in the year, and it was raising eyebrows that the fact that the Prime Minister decided to have the state opening after the local elections to prorogue Parliament over this period, to keep MPs back in their constituencies rather than in the corridors of power where all the sort of plotting tends to happen. And so the Prime Minister may well have had an advantage here, where he's played his cards in the best way that he could. Having the King's speech this week, delaying or indeed interrupting the normal process of what might be considered to be a smoother political assassination. Perhaps that has put a stick in the cogs, or whatever the phrase is there. I'm sure you can imagine the metaphor I'm reaching for. But clearly, I think today, because of the role of the King, we are seeing a bit of a lower temperature.
OK, Tom Harwood, our Deputy Political Editor, thank you very much. Well, we are still waiting for Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. We're hoping he's going to choose to walk in front of the cameras into that famous door of number 10 behind me for this showdown with the Prime Minister. He may, though, choose to go through the back door, in which case we won't see him. But if we do get eyes on him, we'll bring it to you here live on GB News Breakfast. For now, the sun is just coming through here in Downing Street. So let's get a check on the weather, shall we, with Alex Deacon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of drier weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then the sun will pop out at times, but when the showers come along they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some. And with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the course by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Now, still to come, will the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, choose to make an appearance outside Downing Street this morning for that showdown with the Prime Minister? We're on standby here on GB News Breakfast.
And Andrew Pearce will be joining me next. That's all coming up here on GB News Breakfast.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK. GB News Bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back to this special edition of GB News Breakfast live from Downing Street. Just want to bring you this breaking line. We've been reporting this morning that it's believed that the unions have turned on Sir Keir Starmer. They no longer have confidence in him. I can now confirm that that statement has come through. It's been leaked to the press. It says it is clear that the Prime Minister will not lead Labour into the next election, and at some stage a plan will have to be put in place for the election of a new leader. This is a statement from unions affiliated to the Labour Party. That includes Unison, GMB and ASLEF, among others, 11 in total. In a leaked copy of the statement, the union said it was clear to them that Labour cannot continue on its current path, and despite some progress, it was not doing enough to deliver the change people voted for in the last election. So another blow to the embattled disgruntled Prime Minister. Just want to get a quick reaction from our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood, who's still with us. We've now got that statement. Tom, what do you make of it?
It is a stark statement, putting there in black and white the view of the unions, traditionally that base of the Labour Party that provides so much of the Labour Party's funding, infrastructure and history, that Keir Starmer cannot go on to the next general election, leading the party into the next general election. That is the view of the unions. They've made it clear. This is a moment. This is a real moment, because in the world of the Labour Party, in the sort of trade union movement more widely, Keir Starmer is now for want of a better term, a dead man walking. This is a moment where we now know it is when, not if, Keir Starmer goes. It's hard to come back from this. Ultimately, if you want to retain your position as leader of the Labour Party, you've got to retain the confidence of the unions. Now, it is worth saying that he has already had a rocky relationships with the unions in the past. Unite, the union, cut its funding to the Labour Party by 40% in recent years, and already there had been that sort of abrasive relationship. It was seen much more that someone like Angela Rayner, coming up through the union movement herself, was a greater link to the unions than Sir Keir Starmer. And it does seem that the unions will be looking to some of those alternative leadership candidates in the future. No doubt discussions are being had behind the scenes in terms of who might take over from the Prime Minister. But this is a stark statement from those 11 unions affiliated to the Labour Party, some of the largest unions in the country, that Keir Starmer cannot go on, although they are not calling for him to resign within a certain date.
OK, Tom Harwood, thank you very much indeed. Well, Alex, this is certainly a moment, isn't it? A stark moment at that. Sir Keir Starmer has lost the confidence of the unions. Has he then lost the support of his base? I know that you and Andrew Pearce will have something to say about this.
That's right, Ellie. I'm here in the studio with Andrew Pearce now. I mean, Andrew, we were talking about the unions, but frankly, they don't have as much power as they used to since Blair, do they?
No, because they used to bankroll the Labour Party. They don't as much now. Unite was the most powerful union. They were giving millions even when Jeremy Corbyn was in power, but they've massively cut back their support. I mean, the unions have been lukewarm on Starmer for a very, very long time.
Indeed.
But what I mean, he's going to cling on for as long as he can. But what I think is significant, everyone is now saying that Andy Burnham, the King North, has secured a safe seat which he will fight in the by-election. It doesn't work like that, because Labour's National Executive Committee decides who runs in a by-election. It was 8-1 last time that he couldn't run in the Gorton and Denton by-election. That membership hasn't changed a bit. The Home Secretary chairs that committee. She does not like Andy Burnham. In fact, she can't stand him. And even if he gets a seat, Alex, though, who controls the timing of the by-election? The government.
Indeed.
So the by-election might not be held for 3 months. So the idea Andy Burnham is going to hop into a nice safe seat. Where is the safe seat anyway after the reform results last week? And it would take months and months. So I don't think there's any prospect of Andy Burnham becoming the next Prime Minister.
I think he's damaged himself quite massively, actually, Andrew, the last few months, as he's come here on a train yesterday to try and talk to Labour MPs. The reality is there's only two big runners at the moment, and that is Angela Rayner and Wes Streeting, people who can actually trigger.
Yeah. Of course, and Rayner has got problems because she's...
OK, we've got some breaking news. There is the Health Secretary making his way into Downing Street to have that confrontation, that showdown with the Prime Minister. He's entering through the front door of Number 10, which was rumours that he might enter through the Cabinet Office, but there we have it. He was facing down the press there, and as you see, very quickly paced into Downing Street there. Will he have a stark conversation with the Prime Minister about his own leadership ambitions and ask the PM to step aside? As has been reported, he will at least ask the Prime Minister how he's going to get them out of this mess. Of course, alternatively, Andrew, he could be sacked by the PM for all of this.
He could be sacked, but I think it was unlikely because the Prime Minister is in a very weak position. Remember, nearly a quarter of the parliamentary parties now signed letters saying, clear off, mate. And there'll be a lot more behind the scenes who feel the same. Wes Streeting, we'll know what Wes Streeting's doing because tomorrow is the release of the latest NHS waiting list figures. He will be in front of a camera, which is where he likes to be most of all, and he will talk, of course, about waiting lists, but of course he'll be asked about whether he's going or coming. coming.
And Angela Rayner, very quiet at the moment. Why is that?
Because she's still under investigation by HMRC over whether she should or shouldn't have paid £40,000 stamp duty on that flat she bought in Hove in Sussex. And remember, that's what caused her resignation from the Cabinet last September. That HMRC investigation, I'm told, is quite close to being to realisation. What if she's fined? What if she's fined? Can Labour really pick a leader who's been fined for not paying her right taxes? One of her jobs would be, as leader, would be First Lord of the Treasury. If the First Lord of the Treasury doesn't know what taxes she should or shouldn't pay, how can she be Labour leader?
Indeed. Andrew Pearce, thank you very much for joining me. Let's go back to Downing Street with Ellie Costello and Tom Harwood.
Alex, there we have it. We've been waiting for that moment all morning, haven't we? The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, who is in pole position to launch a leadership challenge to the Prime Minister, has now entered number 10 Downing Street for what is being mooted as a showdown with the Prime Minister. And we're here with our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood, and we were just reflecting that Wes Streeting had a choice there, didn't he, Tom? We actually thought we may have missed Wes Streeting's entrance. We thought he may have gone through the back door in order to have this private conversation with the Prime Minister. No, he chose to get out the car down the street there and take the long walk to 10 Downing Street. Why do you think he chose to do that, Tom, and how do you think he looked?
Yeah, this was a deliberate choice from the Health Secretary, trying to project a sense of confidence that he's got nothing to hide, that he's going to stride straight through that front door, as he did, with that air of confidence. Now, he didn't have to do that.
No.
He could have snuck in the back. He could have done what Rachel Reeves did yesterday, which was her car drove all the way up this street and stopped almost just outside the door to number 11, where she stepped out of the car and went straight into that door. Wes Streeting chose not to do that. His car stopped right at the end of the street and he made that long walk up. That's time for journalists to shout questions at him.
And you were doing a great job, Tom.
I shouted a few. He did not respond to a single one, but he did acknowledge journalists, turned to look at us, and there was a slight smile
There
on
was
his
a bit
face,
of a wry
I think.
smile, wasn't there? Because I noticed the difference between his body language yesterday, which was a lot faster, head down, straight into Downing Street. That was ahead of that cabinet meeting that we had yesterday. Today, he looks a lot more confident.
Yeah.
What are you reading into that? Because we have been hearing that these are potentially peace talks, a truce between the pair. We're also hearing it could be a showdown. Based on the body language walking into that meeting, I know it's hard to tell just from that short walk there. What do you think he's going in to say?
Well, at the risk of reading too much into 10 seconds of walking down a pavement, I think that was the body language and the general attitude of a man who was psyched up to do something, to say something, to challenge the Prime Minister. I don't think that was a man walking in for peace talks. I think that was a man who was willing and ready to say to the Prime Minister's face, something has to change, and that this isn't working for the Labour Party, that this chaos is the Prime Minister's fault. There have been those around the Prime Minister who are trying to say that the chaos is Wes Streeting's fault. Some of his allies, of course, were those who resigned yesterday. But of course, many others who resigned were not allies of Wes Streeting. Miatta Fahnbulleh was the first minister to resign yesterday morning. She's seen as closer to Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham. And also, of course, if we look at the 92 names of Labour MPs who've called for the Prime Minister to go, they're not all Wes Streeting people. Many of them are on the left of the Labour Party. Many of them are more associated with Andy Burnham or Angela Rayner, some non-factional themselves as well. So ultimately, I think Wes Streeting might well have a bit of an ace up his sleeve when he is told that this is a chaos of his making. He can say, no, it's not. He didn't start this leadership speculation. Indeed, Catherine West was the first to declare that she might stand against...
Our stalking horse.
Exactly, against the Prime Minister. Ultimately, though, today is the day of the King's speech. Whatever is said in that meeting that is currently going on behind those famous dark bricks, we might not hear much about it until after the King's speech, until after the King has left Parliament. I would not expect there to be a formal statement of intent in public from the Health Secretary until maybe tomorrow.
OK, Tom, thank you very much indeed. Well, Alex, extraordinary scenes here at 10 Downing Street. A defiant and confident Health Secretary walking through that famous black door, and that summit between Wes Streeting and the Prime Minister is now taking place at number 10 Downing Street.
Indeed, stay with us here on Breakfast as we give you all the analysis on what might be going on behind that door in number 10 with the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. His Majesty King Charles is due to reopen Parliament today, where he'll deliver a speech in the House of Lords outlining the government's plans. However, will it even be the same government in a matter of weeks? At this rate, nobody knows. But what does it mean for the Constitution? Is the government playing with fire here? Well, to better understand all of this, we're now speaking to former Conservative Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis. Sir Michael, good morning to you.
Morning, Alex.
For the first time, I think there's been this... I don't think there's ever been a time before where this much politics has been injected into a day of a King's speech.
Yes, it's not ideal. And, of course, there's the real prospect that His Majesty is going to be delivering a speech in a couple of hours' time that Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister who wrote the speech, won't be there to see enacted. And so that's a rather odd state of affairs, and it's one that has caused some controversy, because this is the dignified part of the Constitution, as Walter Bagehot once called it, you know, in Victorian times. We have the sort of undignified part, which is the raw politics, you know, the punching and grinding of rival politics. But the dignified, the magisterial part of politics, or our political constitution, is this sort of ceremony that we'll be seeing today, the state opening of Parliament, which has been going on since the late 1300s. And there won't have been that many occasions where it's been, in recent times, where it's been as sort of replete with political dynamism like it is today.
Indeed, and of course, part of all of this is a great deal of ceremony, pomp ceremony.
Well, there are about 1,000 military personnel standing by, Alex, with about 200 military horses, a number of bands, military bands performing, and of course there'll be people lining the route. But what's actually going to be a fascinating spectacle is to see all the MPs filing in behind Keir Starmer to the bar of the House of Lords to listen to a King's speech that people may feel Keir Starmer won't be there even in a few days to see the beginning processes of his acts that he wishes to have delivered over the next year actually process.
Indeed, and Sir Michael, of course, all of this will be followed by a battle in the House of Commons, yet another showdown. But it will be absolutely juicy for Kemi Badenoch because she sits on those opposition benches today, won't it?
Oh, I mean, this is a gift, really, to Kemi, who has frankly played the whole issue of parliamentary process very well, you know, with the humble address on Mandelson and so on. The processes of Parliament are quite arcane, but when you know how they operate, you can really use them against even quite a powerful government with a large majority. And I think we'll see more of that. But it's very easy, it'll be very adroit for the opposition to say, well, here's a zombie government. It's a new parliamentary session, the King delivering a speech which is supposed to be an agenda for the next year at least, and it's a zombie Prime Minister and a zombie government. And, of course, that's what everyone can see for themselves.
No, I know this is extremely unlikely, but there has been a great deal of MPs on the Labour benches that have now openly declared that they are unhappy with the Prime Minister and his governance of the country, enough to support a grouping of opposition parties to take down the government. I know it's not going to happen, but it does say something that there's going to be a vote at the end of the King's speech. If they're really, really unhappy, they could do it.
Alex, that's a very good point. There is, and it has happened several times before, happened in 1892, where what the opposition parties can do after a King's speech is lay an amendment to the speech of no confidence in the government. Now, when you've got a government with as large a majority as this Labour government, it's pretty difficult to win such a vote because it'll be turkeys voting for Christmas. They'll be voting themselves into an early general election and out of a job. But it is going to, if that were to happen, it would force Labour MPs who are clearly unhappy with Sir Keir Starmer, and we know there are about 90 of them at least who have come out and said that, and I hear there's about another 90 that feel it and haven't said it. They would then have to traipse into the voting lobbies and support Keir Starmer.
Very difficult situation for them indeed. All right, Sir Michael Ellis, thank you so much for joining me. Let's go back live to Downing Street, where Ellie Costello will be there, as Wes Streeting is indeed behind the black door of number 10.
He is indeed, Alex. That summit now taking place behind number 10's famous black door between the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, and the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Now, some people had been mooting it in the papers this morning, some commentators mooting it as peace talks, a truce between the two men. Now, based on the walk that Wes Streeting, very short walk, about 10 seconds, but based on the body language that we viewed there, this was a confident Health Secretary, a confident Wes Streeting that is perhaps going through that door to confront the Prime Minister, perhaps saying something that the Prime Minister doesn't want to hear. It's also worth reflecting, Alex, that the Prime Minister's right-hand man, Darren Jones, has also arrived in a ministerial car. He did not choose to take that walk through the front into 10 Downing Street. Instead, he chose to go in through a side door. But we could perhaps read into that the Prime Minister's right-hand man is here to support the Prime Minister. Perhaps he's even in the room with Wes Streeting and the Prime Minister as we speak. But that summit now taking place between Wes Streeting and Sir Keir Starmer. We hear that Wes Streeting is going to be addressing the turbulence that we've seen within the party in recent days, and he will be asking that key question of what are you going to do to get us out of this mess. Some allies of Wes Streeting have briefed the press this morning saying that he is going to resign as Health Secretary, potentially maybe not today. He won't want to overshadow the King's speech, but he may do so later on this week. I suppose that all depends on the conversation that is taking place behind that black door behind me right now. And the press is congregating just next to me here, waiting with bated breath to get a picture of Wes Streeting as he leaves that famous door and heads back to his ministerial car. And again, we'll all be reading that body language. We'll all be looking at his facial expressions to try and deem quite how that conversation went and what could happen next.
And Ellie, what do we expect? Time do we expect to see the Health Secretary? I'm assuming this meeting won't go on forever, and of course we have got that King's speech coming up in the next couple of hours' time. Will you be trying to ask the Health Secretary a question on the way out, and what are you going to ask him if you do get a chance, Ellie?
Well, the Health Secretary went into 10 Downing Street at 8:24 precisely this morning. So you'd imagine, if our expectation is correct, if Wes Streeting was going in there confident, defiant, ready to confront the Prime Minister, you'd imagine that wouldn't be a particularly long conversation. It was just after 8:30 where Darren Jones entered through the side door. So they've been in there together, all three of them, for 10 minutes. We could expect Wes Streeting to appear here, leaving Downing Street any moment now. We will, of course, bring that to you here on GB News Breakfast. The press is here ready for that moment when he does leave. We'll bring that to you as well. But the King's speech taking place, can you believe it, Alex, the timing of all of this? The King's speech taking place at 11:30 this morning. So just a few hours' time before the King is about to set out the government's agenda for the next year. And at this point, it's hard to believe. Oh, Wes Streeting is now leaving 10 Downing Street. There he is.
Are you going to resign, Mr. Streeting?
There he is, the Health Secretary, defiantly and confidently, I think we can say, Tom, walking to his car. It is worth reflecting that that is a choice by Wes Streeting. There are side entrances, there are back entrances to 10 Downing Street. Again, he chose to leave via the front door to walk that pavement to his ministerial car. A short meeting, Tom. Let's bring in Tom Harwood, our Deputy Political Editor. A short meeting. He was in at 8:24, and let me look at the time now, 8:42.
I mean, much shorter than I think anyone was expecting.
20 minutes.
Perhaps it was a very curt conversation. Perhaps this was a frank exchange of views between these two men. But also, as I have been saying throughout this morning, today is about the King's speech. Whatever was said in there, I'm not sure we're going to find out about it for many, many hours to come. There is this sort of sense of truth for the King, for the state opening. What might then be unleashed after that, my goodness me, it feels like something is building.
It does.
We've got pent-up energy here, and those floodgates will at some point have to be released. But for as long as the state opening is going to take place, those floodgates are in place. It does feel like, however, that was a man walking there who did not have to do the long walk, who did not have to sort of stride and take those shouts from the media.
And he acknowledged the press as well, Tom, didn't he? He was looking over us the entire time.
Both times, walking up and walking back. A sort of knowing look to the press, a wry smile as he went in, and as he left, just a face of confidence. Something went on inside that building, and I don't think it was a peace talk.
When do you think, then, if the Allies are to be believed that are briefing the press this morning, that Wes Streeting is going to resign as Health Secretary and is going to launch a leadership campaign, when do you think he could go over the top if that's what he chooses to do?
If that's what he chooses to do, my guess would be tomorrow morning would be the point to do it. That's when we're expecting new data to come out about waiting lists, about his day job as Health Secretary. That could be a moment where he says, look what I've achieved in my role, but clearly the Prime Minister has not achieved a lot in his role. The party is unhappy with him. Almost 100 Labour MPs have said that the Prime Minister must go. There have been 10 resignations so far from the government. I would expect we might see more resignations before, were we to see a Wes Streeting resignation. We would see perhaps more ministerial resignations before then.
Could that happen today?
I think that because of the King's speech, this is a very, very difficult time. No one wants to be seen to overshadow the King, to embarrass the King. It would be seen to be improper, certainly until the King had left Parliament, but maybe even just for today as a whole. We might see some things in the papers that are going into tomorrow, so perhaps at 10 o'clock at night. But I somehow think that everything feels like there might be movement tomorrow rather than today. That being said, how long can a conversation like that hold? How can we guarantee there will be no leaks? How many people were in that room? Was Darren Jones in that room? Was it just Wes Streeting and the Prime Minister? Were there any aides of the Prime Minister in the room? Might something that was said in there actually unintentionally make its way out there into the public domain today? That's entirely possible.
What should we read into the fact that Darren Jones also made his way into 10 Downing Street just after Wes Streeting arrived, deciding to go through a side entrance rather than through the front door? Would that suggest to you that he was there as backup for the Prime Minister? He is, of course, the Prime Minister's right-hand man.
That is not a coincidence, that timing. The fact that he arrived within minutes of Wes Streeting arriving, and the fact that Darren Jones has been one of those figures who was in Downing Street all yesterday, shoring up support for the Prime Minister, using this sort of rearguard action operation that we know has been taking place within Downing Street. I would not think that it's a particular coincidence that we saw Darren Jones arriving within minutes of the Health Secretary. The Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister there potentially as backup for the Prime Minister in what was no doubt a very frank and difficult conversation.
It looked as though it was a frank and difficult conversation. Thank you very much, Tom, for your analysis. So yes, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, behind the door of 10 Downing Street for that showdown with the Prime Minister. He was in there for about 20 minutes. It was a short conversation, shorter than perhaps we were expecting. Does that mean that Wes Streeting told the Prime Minister something he maybe doesn't want to hear? Alex, back to you.
Oh, indeed, Ellie. Yes, less than 20 minutes inside Downing Street there between the Prime Minister and the Health Secretary. I doubt that was a friendly conversation, James, because I don't know many nice chats that last 20 minutes. Not enough time for his tea to go cold.
Exactly, and probably no biscuits either, which is always a sign that there's a chilliness in the air. As political nerds, we love this, don't we? Can we read something into the way he's walking down the street? Why did he walk? Why didn't he go in through the back door? Why did Darren Jones go through the back door? But reading those runes, as sort of Kremlinologists are used to, it would appear that it was a very frank meeting, and these rumours are swirling around that Wes Streeting has said he's going to resign. He won't do it today because he would not want to overshadow and embarrass the King. However, if he is going to, then he's, contradicting all the people who've said that he's bottled it, and he thinks that he's got the numbers to make a good case and a good stand against Starmer. Only time will tell, but certainly parsing what we've seen this morning, it would certainly appear that he's going to go for it. And there'll be lots of people saying, good luck, lots of people saying, you're mad.
Yeah, Chloe, 18 minutes all in all, but that's not including the time he's got to get through Downing Street, sit down, wait for the Prime Minister to arrive. You could be looking at a 10-minute conversation between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister, perhaps with Darren Jones sitting in the room, who is, of course, a massive supporter of Keir Starmer. That would make it even more frosty. What do you make of that?
I think that you're right. There was probably a pretty frank conversation. He probably just sat him down and said, right, let's cut to the chase. I think there's no point them beating around the bush. I think they know that the tensions are high between them. It's no point saying, oh, how are you doing, pal? Everything good with you? Clearly, it's not all good. Yeah. I think that given how confidently Wes Streeting walked in and out of there, I think it's quite clear that he thinks he's in a strong position, which would, to me, suggest that he's got those 81 MPs backing him. He's probably gone to Starmer and said, look, I've got these 81 MPs, and potentially as well, he said, I've got all of the cabinet, or a significant part of them, ready to walk out with me, say tomorrow, if you don't go now, if you don't go first.
He looked confident, didn't he? He was very quick to walk past the press, but he wasn't shying away. He was looking over at the press. He definitely, I mean, that's a sign to me of a man who wants to be noticed. He doesn't want to keep his head down.
He wouldn't do that if he thought he'd bottled it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not he chose to go through the front entrance of Downing Street, because he could have entered through the Cabinet Office discreetly, had a conversation privately with the Prime Minister, which I would say would signal signal him perhaps wanting to be cordial with the PM, not wanting to make a spectacle of it all. Perhaps number 10 wanted Wes Streeting to go through the front. So the Prime Minister's allies gather around and get ready for a leadership contest.
Yes, they may well have said, oh, sorry, the Cabinet Office door is locked today. You have to go through the front.
It would be odd because Darren Jones went through it. Perhaps he locked it on the way out.
Yes, but it was mended very quickly, and that faulty lock was repaired extremely fast. But it's true that all the body language that we're reading there would suggest that Streeting was confident, and he's certainly someone who hasn't lacked confidence. He's a very articulate, very good media performer, which is something that the Labour Party has lacked at the top hitherto. So he's got those things in his favour. However, you know, he will have a lot of opposition. The unions have just come out and suggested that Mr Starmer should set out a timetable for his departure. They won't be supporting Wes Streeting, who's more to the right of the party. They may well throw themselves behind Burnham, Miliband or Rayner, take your pick. So there's a sense that the fight between the ferrets in the sack is only just about to begin.
Yes, indeed. There's lots of reports today, lots of articles being written about how the Health Secretary has bottled it. He certainly won't be happy to hear those sorts of headlines. This is a man who prides himself on his PR and his ability to be seen as the next leader. Will that perhaps even inspire him even more to go, do you know what, tomorrow? Because I highly doubt it will be today, given the King's Speech. Nobody would want to overshadow the monarch. It would be a terrible way to start a leadership contest, indeed. But Chloe, those headlines saying he's bottled it, he's not going for it, that might send him over the edge too.
Yeah, I mean, he'll want to defy those rumours. That's probably given him more fuel, more fire in his belly to go for it now. And I think that, as you say, with the unions now suggesting that Starmer should set out a timetable meaning time for Andy Burnham to get back into Parliament, Wes Streeting is probably realising if you're going to go, you need to go now. Yes. Not today because of the King's Speech, but possibly tomorrow. And, of course, there's this health summit where he's going to be talking about the stats in the NHS, which I think, given how confident he's walking, he probably knows that those stats look good, or at least he's able to spin them in a way that looks good. So he can say the Prime Minister, or make it look as though the Prime Minister's done nothing, he's incompetent, but me as Health Secretary, I am a prime example of a good politician who's doing their job.
Yeah, indeed. And James, Wes Streeting, of course, is the man we are talking about as the first contender to enter the race, because he is an MP, first of all. He hasn't got any scandals surrounding him that are holding him back like Angela Rayner does. He has a seat.
To Mandelson is a bit of a problem.
He is the closest to Mandelson. We are expecting the Mandelson files to drop in the next couple of weeks. But, you know, he did do something quite tactical, didn't he, when they came out, those text messages. He released them to the press despite protests from Downing Street. He has been a bit of a rebel all along, but he is clearly in the strongest position to go now. He shouldn't wait if he wants to be Prime Minister for the left to organise.
You're right. He's got the jump on Rayner and Burnham, neither of whom is in a position to stand at the moment. The example that you gave, quite rightly, of him releasing the text about Mandelson, again underlined his mastery of the media. What I think might be interesting is if he does stand, whether Ed Miliband will throw his hat into the ring as a left-wing counterbalance to Streeting, and then Starmer's chances improve markedly, because that would split the vote between the MPs, right down the middle between right and left, and the man in place may be the man still in place next week, next month, even at the next general election. If the party is so split, they will say, better the devil we know.
Yeah, this will be the deciding factor, won't it? Will Wes Streeting now make a move that did not sound cordial to me? It did not sound cordial to me. What would have been a 15-minute max meeting between the Prime Minister and Health Secretary. But still to come, what do we know about that meeting between Starmer and Streeting? Rumours are already leaking. More on that next.
Wouldn't we love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation, Alex? Well, I'm going to be speaking to Paymaster General Nick Thomas Simmons, who is also an ally of Sir Keir Starmer. He's going to tell me what he made of that so-called showdown, this history-making battle for the heart of his party. That's after the weather.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of dry weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then the sun will pop out at times, but when the showers come along they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some. And with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the course by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A92 is closed between Melville Lodges roundabout and Ladybank Junction due to emergency roadworks. In Greater London, 2 lanes on the M4 eastbound between Junction 3 and Junction 2 are closed after a collision, causing 1-hour delays, with normal conditions expected by 10:26. In Kent, the M25 anti-clockwise has 3 lanes closed from a serious collision, leading to 1.5-hour delays, likely clearing by 11:53. And on the trains, South Western Railway faces disruptions, while Transport for Wales reports delays between Shrewsbury and Swansea via the Heart of Wales line. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Wes Streeting concludes his crunch talks with the Prime Minister. The Health Secretary has confronted the Prime Minister after 4 government ministers resigned with no confidence in his leadership. But what actually happened behind that famous black door is unfolding right here in the heart of Westminster.
Hello.
And to add fuel to the fire, the King's speech is in just a matter of hours.
Have you resigned, Mr. Streeting? What did you say, Prime Minister?
Did you ask the Prime Minister to resign?
Have you bought? Are you going to resign, Mr. Streeting?
Do you want the job or not?
And as the psychodrama continues, there are reports, of course, that former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is ready to launch her own leadership bid, and Energy Secretary Ed Miliband would throw his hat in the ring if Wes Streeting triggers a leadership contest. It comes, of course, as Labour-backing unions turn on the Prime Minister, saying Sir Keir Starmer will not lead the government into the next election. Well, the anarchy in Downing Street has already sent the markets into chaos. What further damage could be done, and will working and tax-paying people pay the price once again? Well, earlier, Ellie spoke to the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burkhardt.
Yeah, this uncertainty is terrible, and terrible for Britain. And the Labour Party have got to sort it out. And I'm afraid that means they're going to have to get rid of the Prime Minister very quickly.
A chilly one out there again today, a brisk wind and plenty of showers, some heavy downpours, also more showers to come tomorrow too. Join me later for a full forecast.
Well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong.
And I'm Ellie Costello, live at Downing Street for this special edition of GB News Breakfast. The psychodrama continues in Westminster. Alex, that summit has now finished between Wes Streeting and the Prime Minister. A very brief conversation between the two men, it must be said. Tom Harwood, who's just been looking back through the tapes there, was telling me that that meeting lasted 16 minutes. That is 16 minutes from the moment that Wes Streeting entered that door behind me to the moment he left it. Now, that is barely time to pop the kettle on, barely time for any biscuits, as James Ranton was saying there in your paper review. What we were saying from that, Tom Harwood, is that it doesn't look as though that was a friendly conversation. It looked as though it could have been a very frank conversation between Wes Streeting and the Prime Minister. Just talking about his body language as well, Alex, because Wes Streeting had a choice here ahead of that showdown, as it was being mooted between himself and the Prime Minister. He could have chosen to go through the back door, away from the glare of the cameras and the press waiting outside. He could have chosen, like Darren Jones, to enter through the side door. No, he decided to get out the ministerial car just down the street here on Downing Street and walk up. He wanted the press here to see him. And Alex, I think it is worth noting that he looked at the press on his way in and looked at the press on the way out with a wry smile of acknowledgement. What do you think happened in that meeting?
Well, it certainly seems 16 minutes door to door is not a very cordial conversation. That doesn't include waiting time for the Prime Minister. He wouldn't just walk into the door and sit down straight with the PM. I think that would have been a roughly about 10-minute chat, it seems, Ellie. That's not enough for a cordial conversation, if you ask me. And Wes Streeting did look very confident entering and exiting. But will he pull the trigger today? That's the question. Or will it be tomorrow, or if at all?
Well, of course, the King's speech is just a few hours away, isn't it? So it has been deemed that it would be constitutionally uncouth for Wes Streeting to make a move today if he decides to do that. But it does mean that all bets are off for tomorrow morning. Will we see Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, potentially resign as Health Secretary? Could we see him launch a leadership bid? All options are now on the table. Let's speak now to Nick Thomas-Symonds, Paymaster General, who joins us now on GB News Breakfast. Very good morning to Nick Thomas-Symonds. Always really good to have you on the programme. Look, high drama morning here in Westminster. We've just witnessed the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, enter the door of 10 Downing Street. He was there for just 16 minutes. He looked like a confident man walking in. He looked like a confident man walking out. Is he about to launch a leadership bid?
Well, I've seen a lot of dramatisation of this moment overnight. Anyone would think it was the poker scene out of Casino Royale or something like that, listening to some of the coverage. But the Prime Minister said yesterday at the start of Cabinet that any Cabinet Ministers who wanted to pop round to see him or to have a coffee were welcome to do so. That is about 15 minutes. I think is pretty unsurprising. I went around to see the Prime Minister last night. Had a very good conversation. I didn't have a coffee, though, actually, so maybe I'll have to have a word with Number 10 about that. But I think it's very important, obviously, that the Prime Minister speaks to his Cabinet, listens to their concerns, and you've seen Wes Streeting going in to do that this morning.
But what we also heard the Prime Minister say was he effectively threw down the gauntlet, didn't he? And he said anyone who wants to challenge me can do so directly. And as you say, he said to ministers, you can come and talk to me. But he did retreat to his private office yesterday, didn't he? Why didn't he give ministers an opportunity to speak to him yesterday? Why did he leave Wes Streeting to have a private conversation with him today?
Party leader. That is a big moment.
So yesterday at Cabinet we were focusing on the business of government. We were talking about the impact of the conflict in the Middle East. Now the Prime Minister, as you know, took the decision not to join the offensive action that the government of Israel and indeed the United States took. That was the right decision for the country. Both Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage would have jumped in feet first. So we were talking about cost of living issues, really important issues for your GB News viewers. But the Prime Minister also was quite open about taking responsibility for the very tough election results of last week, but saying Cabinet Ministers were welcome to come and speak to him, and there's an open door to do so. It's absolutely right that he does. And by the way, although we've seen Cabinet members speaking to the Prime Minister in recent days, his door is always open to listen to their concerns, whether that's about him or other aspects of the government. And I think that was absolutely the right approach that we spent yesterday. Yes, the Prime Minister setting out, he was more than willing to have those conversations, but also getting on with the business of government, which is hugely important.
But the writing's on the wall, isn't it, that there is going to be a leadership challenge, whether that's from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, whether that's from Angela Rayner, who's also picking up numbers, whether that's from Andy Burnham, who was in London last night for secret talks, reports this morning that he has found an MP who is willing to stand down and therefore trigger a by-election. Do you support Andy Burnham being allowed to come back to Westminster?
Well, look, firstly, just to say on Andy Burnham, who's doing a fantastic job as the Mayor of Greater Manchester. I've been working with Andy very closely over the last 2 years on delivering the Hillsborough law, and saw him only in the last 2 weeks. Doing a great job as the Mayor of Greater Manchester and fulfilling his democratic mandate there. But in terms of the point about a leadership contest, the rules are very clear. You have to have an alternative challenger, a single challenger, who can command 81 signatures in total. That hasn't happened in recent days. There is no leadership contest. So in those circumstances, it's been turbulent. I'm not going to insult the intelligence of your viewers by saying anything else. They'll have seen it on their television screens. But those are the rules. That threshold has not been met. So we move forward today. We have 35 bills in the King's speech today, delivering for people in the country. That's the instruction we had from the electorate last week. They want to see that change, and that's exactly what we move on and focus on.
But, I mean, you said...
How can you say that a leadership challenge is not taking place? It may be taking place in the shadows, but it is certainly taking place. Angela Rayner, we know, is gaining momentum. She's got numbers behind her. Andy Burnham, The Telegraph pictured him coming out of London Euston yesterday, holding secret talks with allies in London last night. We have Wes Streeting, who's made no secret of his leadership ambitions, here for a showdown with the Prime Minister this morning. How can you say that a leadership challenge is not underway? It most certainly and clearly is.
Feel slightly optimistic, at least in relative terms.
Well, it isn't, because you need 81 signatures from members of Parliament behind a single candidate. That is what creates the leadership contest. That hasn't happened. I don't see much prospect of that happening on the basis of the last couple of days.
But campaigning is quite clearly begun, even if that's in the shadows.
Well, we look at the last couple of days. The rules of the party are clear. That hasn't happened. There is no contest that is happening. And what I say to colleagues today is, we were all elected on that manifesto in 2024 to deliver that change for the British public. We're going to be seeing today bills on a wide range of issues, from issues like energy security. We'll be seeing that really important health bill that's going to abolish NHS England, moving from that focus on bureaucracy to the frontline patient care that people absolutely want us to be focusing on. I'll be putting forward my European Partnership Bill, not going back to the European debates of the past around the single market or the customs union or freedom of movement, but genuinely taking away barriers to trade, red tape from businesses, so we can bear down on the cost of food and the cost of energy. So it's that focus today, and we're going to see it in the King's speech on delivery, which is where I think everybody needs to now be going forward.
All of this psychodrama just hours before the King's speech. We've got this extraordinary reporting this morning that Buckingham Palace had to ring number 10 yesterday and ask whether the King's speech was still going ahead. They didn't want to drag the monarch into politics. Have you politicised the King?
No, we haven't. We certainly would never do that. And with regard to today, I don't know the precise nature of conversations between the Palace and number 10, but of course there will have been conversations, as there always are. But I love days like this. I think what you're going to see today is our British history, our monarchy, Britain at its best, showcasing our Parliament to the world. Then you will see, beyond that, I like the pomp and circumstances it happens, but after that you will then see debates in the Commons, the government putting forward its legislative programme for delivery for the British public. So I'm actually very much looking forward to the day ahead.
Starmer hopes that the government will...
Just finally, Nick Thomas-Symonds, just want to ask you about this letter, this stark letter from 11 unions affiliated to the Labour Party, in which it says it is clear that the Prime Minister will not lead this government into the next general election. They say that Labour cannot continue on its current path, and despite some progress, it's not doing enough to deliver the change that people voted for at the last election. It's a damning letter, isn't it, Nick Thomas-Symonds? The Prime Minister has lost the unions, which is vital to your funding, as you well know. He's lost the base, hasn't he? He's the dead man walking.
No, look, I haven't read that letter yet, but what I would say is this. I think the Prime Minister had a mandate from the 2024 general election to deliver change for the public. And when I hear frustrations about the pace of change, I share them, and I'm doing work at the centre of government, where I work in the Cabinet Office, to reduce those barriers to delivery. Things like, do we need the number of consultations? Do we need all these reviews? I know that your viewers want us to just get on with it, and that is exactly the work that I am leading in terms of the pace of change. Having seen the Prime Minister last night, I saw at first, right in front of me, his determination to deliver that change and get on with it, and that's what we will do.
But he's become a massive distraction from your work, hasn't he? We're not here talking about your work. We're here talking about the Prime Minister and his authority and his leadership.
Look, I'm not denying for a moment that the last couple of days have been turbulent. I'm not going to insult your viewers by saying anything else. But the reality is there is a set of rules in place to trigger a leadership contest. Those 81 names, that hasn't been forthcoming. That hasn't happened. Now is the time to get on with the job of delivery, focus on that. And that's my message today.
All right, Nick Thomas-Symonds, thank you so much for joining us this morning on GB News Breakfast. We're very appreciative of your time. Well, let's speak now to GB News' Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood, who's here in Downing Street. What did you make of what Nick Thomas-Symonds had to say, who essentially was saying nothing to see here?
Well, it is interesting. He is completely right that there hasn't been one with the 81 names required to kick off the formal leadership contest. But I thought you were very astute in saying there is an informal leadership contest. And in fact, while you were conducting that interview, yet another name, a Labour MP, came forward to say that the Prime Minister has got to go. It was Kevin McKenna, taking that to 93 Labour MPs now, who say that the Prime Minister must step down. That is a really serious position for this Labour Party to be in, for this government to be in. We're getting on for 100 MPs, really, who are saying that the Prime Minister must go, and that's despite today's sort of special occasion of the state opening. That's despite the King in Parliament today and the King's speech. This is a really significant moment that already today we are still hearing from MPs who are coming forward and saying that the Prime Minister must go, even though we expect today to sort of be a state of suspended animation due to the royal occasion. And that tomorrow may well be the bigger moment when things happen. I do wonder, though, as we were discussing earlier, for how long can the conversation that Wes Streeting had with the Prime Minister in the building behind us, for how long can that hold? We know that that building can be a very leaky place. Yes. And we know that sometimes these things do not, that politicians can't keep a lid on something that they might want to keep a lid on. Things could move, but just judging from what Nick Thomas-Symonds was saying there, it doesn't feel like the brave face that the government is trying to put up here is going to hold for all that long. Watching Wes Streeting, as we did, walk all the way up this street and all the way back down this street just minutes ago, that did not look like a man who had bottled it, who had withdrawn from his intention to do something. That looked like a man with determination, steely determination in his face, and I think that we're going to see certainly more things move in the coming hours and days.
I think those reports that we were talking about this morning of peace talks or a truce, would you say they're cast to the side now?
I think it's vanishingly unlikely that the brief meeting that was had between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister...
We think about 10 minutes, don't we?
Potentially 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how long the Prime Minister made Wes Streeting wait outside the room before he was welcomed in. It could have been a 30-second meeting. I don't think it was. But ultimately, this was a brief meeting. This was not a long, protracted conversation. And generally, if you're thinking about peace talks, if you're thinking about a way forward, you might expect that to be a longer conversation, whereas a frank exchange of views, you might expect that to be a shorter conversation. I think we are going to see something that shifts here.
What did you make of what Nick Thomas-Symonds had to say about that news that we've had this morning about 11 unions who are affiliated to the Labour Party, making it clear that the Prime Minister, they think, is not going to lead this party into the next general election?
I think he was rather downplaying the significance of this. The Labour Party is completely reliant on its union base. They bankroll the party, and although there have been rifts between the unions and this particular Labour government in the past, Unite cut its funding to the Labour Party by 40% in recent years. But despite all of that, the unions are an incredibly important base for this party, not only for funding, but for political support, for support for individual MPs, and of course, without the backing of certain unions, it's vanishingly unlikely that a candidate might be able to win the Labour Party leadership. They are so necessary in the structure of the Labour Party. They're how the Labour Party was founded back in the 1890s through that union movement. The fact that every single affiliated union has come together with a unified statement this morning saying that the Prime Minister will not lead the party into the next election, cannot lead the party into the next election, that is hugely significant. It's a big, big moment.
So you think if Wes Streeting, based on the confidence that we saw of that man walking walking down this street here after that summit with the Prime Minister. If he chooses to go over the top, when could that happen?
If I was a betting man, I'd say tomorrow morning. The reason I say that is because there are due to be health statistics that come out tomorrow morning, regularly updated, numbers of people on waiting lists. I think that could be a moment where Wes Streeting can say, look what I've achieved as Health Secretary. He could then say, I'm going out with my head held high and I'm challenging this Prime Minister. It would be a way that he could do something to deliver on a promise to the party as a whole, that he has achieved something in his role rather than just leaving with a job half done.
OK, Tom Harwood, our Deputy Political Editor at GB News, thank you very much for your analysis. Well, Alex, what a dramatic morning it's already been here in Westminster. Not even 9:30 in the morning. We've already had that showdown between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister. As Tom says, how long will that conversation stay secret for? This is all ahead of the King's speech at 11:30, where he is meant to set out the government's agenda. And later on this afternoon, we're going to be debating that in the House. Kemi Badenoch will be speaking. The Prime Minister will be speaking. Will he be addressing this turmoil, especially after those 11 unions issued a statement saying they no longer have confidence that he will lead the party into the next general election? It is another blow for this embattled Prime Minister.
Certainly is, Ellie. Right, we've got in the studio here Miriam Cates and Andrew Pearce with me. Of course, you would have seen all the action, or very short bit of action, should we say. 16 minutes door to door. That's from him getting in, getting out. And as you know, you don't just go sit down straight with the Prime Minister as you walk in.
Prime Minister might have kept him waiting.
I'm sure he did. And that would at least say to me a 12-minute meeting, perhaps.
Yeah.
Not much can be said in 12 minutes.
But if you're resigning, does it take 12 minutes? Does it take 2 minutes?
Well, who knows what was said and what will happen next. I mean, it's such a fast-moving situation.
The thing is, Downing Street is like a sieve. It will leak.
Certainly will. And that would be beneficial. Either way, whatever happens, it will be beneficial for the government if he's staying and has decided to chuck his support behind. And if he's resigning, it benefits Wes Streeting, doesn't it, Miriam? Because at the end of the day, he will want to gather whether or not he's got enough support if he goes tomorrow.
It's an extremely difficult situation. Obviously, we've got the King's speech. There's now this massive elephant in the room. They'll try and play happy families today. We'll see pictures of the King walking next to the Prime Minister. Kemi Badenoch will be there, Nigel Farage. What are they thinking? They're keeping quiet at the moment, of course. But this really is a turbulent time for the country. I mean, what if Starmer stays? He's got no authority. If he goes, what's going to happen to the markets, to our politics more generally? I mean, we're looking on in interest, but...
The markets are already in turmoil.
They are.
And I know Andy Burnham said some time ago, the so-called King of the North, politicians shouldn't be driven by the bond market.
He said the markets will fall into place. Well, I don't think that's how the free markets work, is it? That's not how the free markets work. So what's your analysis then? Do you think he's going to go?
Do I think Starmer? I don't think Starmer will voluntarily resign.
Wes. He's going to go
I
for the
think
leadership.
he'll have to go in the next 2 days or not at all, because it's now or never, isn't it? Now is his moment.
But has he got the numbers? He needs 81 MPs signing a letter saying we support you to run in a leadership contest. That's nearly a fifth. Yeah. That's nearly a quarter of the parliamentary party.
Well, interestingly, minutes after he left Downing Street, the 93rd MP, I believe, publicly wrote as part of that bunch of rebel MPs that are now seemingly becoming a tsunami, and that would just be that's just the openly declared ones, not just the private ones.
Still no cabinet ministers have gone. That's a significant thing. 4 ministers have gone, but they're people nobody's ever heard of. And when Boris Johnson was forced out, he lost cabinet ministers. That makes a big difference.
All right, look, Britain's Newsroom, we'll see you again very shortly for your show. I'm sure there's a lot to be talking about, and of course you'll have the King's speech, won't you, as well?
We will.
Yeah, big stuff to happen on Britain's Newsroom coming up very shortly. Bringing back Ellie there, live in Downing Street. Ellie, it's been quite a morning for you there, seeing the Health Secretary and his showdown with the Prime Minister. A very short showdown. We've had the breaking news about unions giving up support for the Prime Minister. Anything in the last couple of minutes, Ellie?
always happy to.
Anything could happen now, Alex. That's clear to see. Not even 9:30 in the morning, and as you say, it's just been breaking news after breaking news. We were talking this morning about potential peace talks, a potential truce between the Health Secretary and the Prime Minister. Based on the length of that conversation and the confidence of that walk from Wes Streeting after that summit, I think it's fair to say that was a very frank and open conversation, potentially saying something the Prime Minister didn't want to hear. We'll probably hear what happened in that meeting, if not tonight, then tomorrow morning. For now, here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Chilly day out there today and a wet day for some of us as well. Lots of heavy showers around, the odd rumble of thunder possible too. You're likely to get wet on the morning commute. Some places seeing a bit more in the way of drier weather. Parts of southern Scotland may not see too many showers this morning, but elsewhere heavy showers coming and going, blown along by a fairly brisk wind in the west and a chilly wind as well. Between the showers every now and then the sun will pop out at times, but when the showers come along they'll be heavy and make it feel even cooler than it is. Temperatures struggling at 11 or 12 at best across the north, 13 or 14 further south. Feels cooler because of the showers and that stiff gusty wind blowing in from the west. The wind's a little lighter in the east, but still the showers will feed down across much of Scotland throughout the evening time. Some heavy ones likely, particularly in this zone from southwest Scotland down across northern England, but also plenty of showers coming in on a brisk wind for Northern Ireland. The showers will feed into Wales, also down towards the southeast of England. Something perhaps a little drier in the far southwest. Parts of Cornwall, the Isles of Scilly may not see too many evening showers. But elsewhere the showers will continue. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads. They do tend to continue to move through, so we're not expecting the rain to really build up in any one location. And overnight, we will start to see the showers fading for some. And with some clearer skies, it will turn a little chilly. Pockets of frost possible again over southern Scotland, northwest England, where we see the clearest skies in some rural areas. Into Thursday, it's a similar story. If anything, the wind's coming more down straight from the north. So again, it's a day of sunshine and lots of showers. Perhaps not as many showers down the central spine of the country through the morning, but even here I think we'll see some by the course by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, some pretty heavy ones likely, and again, a chilly feel with temperatures below average and feeling cooler in the brisk winds.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. A broken down vehicle delays the A9 northbound near Auchterarder. The M4 eastbound slip road at junction 20 from the M5 northbound in South Gloucestershire is down to one lane. In Greater London, a serious collision on the M4 eastbound between junctions 3 and 2 has closed 2 lanes, with delays until 11. Bolton's M61 southbound between junctions 4 and 3 has 1 lane closed due to an accident. 3 lanes are closed from a crash on the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent between junctions 3 and 2. And on the trains, there is disruption on northern services between Hebden Bridge, Halifax and Brighouse. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
More and more people are now tuning in to GB News.
They shape our programmes, we try and incorporate them in our shows as much as we can.
Our audience are really interactive.
Our listeners, our viewers, they're growing. And that's because they tell their friends and family about what we're doing here at GB News.
It feels like the depth of that connection has strengthened as well.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on GB News.
Come and say hello to everybody that's here from